All right, welcome to episode 19 of the BattleVault, a no dice, no glory podcast dedicated to the world of BattleVault's 15mm tactical gaming, which includes Flames of War, World War III Team Yankee, Great War, NAM, and Fate of the Nation. Today is the 22nd of June, 2021. Well, I'm Ed, and I'm joined by my buddy Tom and a guest who we'll introduce here in a moment. So, Tom, what are we going to cover in today's episode?
All right, Ed, thanks, man. Hope you're doing well. I know we got some tournament events that you're going to be talking about here shortly, along with our guest. And we'll kick off with mention and dispatches, as per usual, with the recent Flames of War and Team Yankee tournament results. Then we're going to move into Heroes of Hobby, where we're going to focus in on the U.S. Team Yankee Masters list that will be played next week. And for that, we brought in somebody much smarter than you and I, Aaron Macheski-Preston. So say hey there, Aaron.
Hello, everybody. I'm not sure I'd go that far, guys, but I appreciate you having me here. It's always good to chat.
So, and we decided we'd just have Aaron on board for the whole podcast. so he'll be, because he plays heavily into some of the past events, so he can get some firsthand perspective. So we'll just have him on board for the whole thing this time. And thanks for coming back. I think this is the maybe third time we've had you. Is it third or fourth? It's we've had you more than a couple times. Yeah. So always been great to have on board. And after we go over the Team Yankees U.S. Master list, we'll also look at rules Ed forgot or Tom butchered, and that Aaron will square us away on. And then we'll move into upcoming U.S. events and final thoughts as we go into the end of June. Does that sound like a pretty decent plan?
I like it.
Yes,
Eduardo? All right, good deal. All right, so Ed, Aaron, we'll start off with Ed. What you been up to lately? Built any new? I know you built some fins. You can tell us about those,
yes.
And I know you've done some other stuff.
Yeah, I'm building some more right now. One of the things I wanted to tournament was a packet of Finnish mortars, so I'm going to paint them up, try to get it done for this weekend or before this weekend. And then I've been working on my last platoon of my Japanese, so I'm about to finish 2 platoons of Japanese, which will wrap my Japanese figures totally up. So that's the goal for the rest of this week. Mm-hmm.
Then we have to plow into doing early war cards and mid-war cards for them, so we can play them and get them out for the community to share. Pretty cool. Did you buy a bunch of new stuff for the fins, or are you just using blisters and packs you previously already had?
I've still got many packs of fins to make. But I needed mortars, and they just happen to have mortars over at the Huntsville Retro, Station Retro there in Huntsville, Alabama. And great store, and I went in and picked that up.
Oh, excellent. All right, Aaron, what have you been doing lately?
Well, like Ed there, I also was down in Huntsville this last weekend, and just like Ed, I also bought some mortars from them. So they're in the painting queue right now. The heavy mortars are a unit I've never really used much back in the past in 3rd edition, and I've been playing fins since before you could play fins in late war. I was proxying national tournaments with like Fallschirmjäger list, taking fin stuff, but just dusting those off. I'm really looking forward to trying to play them some and knocking the rust and the dust off the minis.
Were you the one that, when I ran one of the earlier Wolf Craigs before there was a version 3 finish list, did you run them, proxying them as SS infantry?
Or I was using Fallschirmjägers. Like, I take the Fallschirmjäger infantry list and run Stugs to back them up. And I know I also ran a Stug company there, so I think I did pretty well with the Stug company one year, just using Finnish Stugs, the Sturmies.
Okay. But, I thought I remembered that. Yeah, very cool.
I know one of the Origins tournaments, that was my first Nationals tournament I went to, and the one with the sticky unfinished resin pools on it, if you remember that one, like 2007, 2008. Everybody, we got to be aware of. Oh, well.
I did go to Origins that year, but I did not play Flames of War. I was not even playing the game at that time. So, in fact, I went up there to sample Flames of War, and I played it with the last square. They had a demo table, that Wisconsin store, and I really didn't like it. The kid that was quote showing me the rules. Really didn't understand it very well, and he wasn't the best representative of the game system. And I played Blitzkrieg Commander, and I really liked that. So I started off just playing Blitzkrieg Commander, and then initially for World War II, but then later on I came back around to Flames of War after people locally kept more pressure on me, and the rest is history. So,
no, I'm glad. There's a lot of stuff you've done for us. Yeah. No, that was the main reason I remember that tournament is that was one versus Eric Rieha. Some of you might remember him. We had a 43 round tournament game. So in a 2.5-hour game, we got 42 or 43 rounds in a game. So I'll always remember that lovely machine gunning by Eric. But no, I'm also dusting off some British infantry, but that's lesser. But go ahead.
Yeah, Eric's big into Legion now. I think that's his main game. Been in that for quite a few years. So cool. Have you painted anything else besides fins, or is that the only thing you've been working on?
I was finishing up my British Armored Car Squadron, which I've been running, the Daimler Armored Car Troop. I've been playing those, and like I mentioned, I've got some infantry now that I need to expand away from just running armored cars and support. So got some motor rifles I'm working on for that.
Yep, got to have combined arms. Good stuff. Well, cool. Well, I've actually finally got back into painting. I did the 5 last podcast. I think I talked about the 5 SD KFC 232s, the 8 rads I painted, and now I've painted another almost 19 vehicles of Soviets for Team Yankee of various types, Danas and some BMP-1Ps and some BMP-1s and the PRP Observer, and all of them are at least they're either fully 3D printed or at least the bottoms were. So some of the BMPs have Battlefront upper hulls and gun turrets. But so I've getting some pretty good decent use out of the 3D printer, expanding my forces, which I need to do for Masters. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. So it felt good to do some nice, easy Soviet painting, just to get back in the swing of things. Spray paint them green, and I've been using the Vallejo U.S. Olive Drab. I think that's the closest match I've found to the old Team Yankee Soviet paint, which you can no longer get. So that Vallejo U.S. Olive Drab spray paint is very close, especially if you're going to put a little bit of a black wash on it like I do. They match up very well. So I was very happy to find that and say, oh, okay, I can make all my new stuff match my old stuff. So very excited for that. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and move into events. So the first one we have was from Collinsville, Illinois. We had DICON on June 12th, and that was run by Will Yankowski, and he ran a Team Yankee event on Saturday, and then he ran a Flames of War event on Sunday. And none of us were there, right? You didn't go to that thing, did you, Aaron?
No, I didn't. A little bit too far out of my normal range.
Okay. All right. So, well, since we got you on the line here, Aaron, go ahead. Let's do the. They had 16 players for Saturday, and how about we just run from the top 5 there, and then we'll go into the winning list, which we do have.
It looks like one of my opponents from this last weekend in Huntsville was the winner with Mr. Brian Coaches, or I might have should have gone the other way, playing some Israeli mechs. And that's definitely an interesting formation. I think it's a pretty strong one. We got some locals who really like that right now, too, in South Georgia here. Second was Mr. Tim McClelland, another fine player. It looks like he was playing U.S. I'm guessing he was probably playing a version of the U.S. Marine list, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Third place, I think our friend. Or go ahead, sorry.
No, I think the top 4 are also in U.S. Masters, and I think they're all also playing those same forces for Masters. So there was probably like a rehearsal run for them.
Yeah.
And third is everybody's buddy from Indianapolis, Chris Fretz, playing his Dutch. And I know he's been playing a lot of different versions of that, testing stuff out, as we talk while painting some, which is fun. Fourth is another of my opponents from last weekend, Charlie Clay, and he's playing his Iraqi T-62 list, which he's been painting and showing off on this thing. It looks fun. And then Tom, you're going to have to do the last name on this one, because I know you've practiced this.
It's John Dziubek, and I looked it up. I had to Google it, how to pronounce it. Apparently it's Polish, and I hope I'm getting this correctly, John, but it said Jubek is how it's pronounced, at least on the audio thing. So John Jubek, hopefully we keep that correct in the future, and he was playing East Germans. bring it up for 5th out of the 16 players. So pretty good deal. And so what did Brian coaches use to secure this awesome victory?
Well, like I was mentioned earlier, he was playing Israeli Mech Force, Mech Infantry Company, which I think is probably the strongest one they have. I really like that M113 Mech Infantry Platoon because it's got a lot of teams, both infantry and anti-tank, with the 3 RPG-7s and the M47 Dragon, even a light mortar team in there, backed up by 7 solid rifles with laws. So he's got a couple of those.
Does that light mortar bombard, or does the light mortar bombard, or is it like a British World War II light mortar?
I think it's a knee mortar, being a 50. I'd have to double check on that, but I can do that in a second. Yeah. But he's also core in the formation, backing that up. He's got the standard 3 81mm mortars, which are a really nice, cheap template, and then Merkava 2 is in there. He's got 3 of those, which is a very solid tank. It's a shame. I'm not a big fan of 3 tank platoons. That would be a perfect little platoon if you could take that. But, backing that up, he's got more mortars. He's got 3 of the M106 120mm mortars, and then also the M109 artillery battery with a nice M113 observer with all of those templates. Makes sense. And then 3 of the Para, the anti-tank guided missile launching things that don't need line of sight, which is definitely interesting. And to make it a little more rounded, to give him some more of an aggressive force, he's running looks like he's got the German version of the Leo 1 company. So he's got, looks like 9 Leos, a Lux platoon, and then 6 Gepards, which are a very, very solid unit. Round it all out.
I know, Aaron, you listened Wednesday night to Joe Lewis's Facebook simulcast. I don't know what those video casts, I don't know what exactly they're called. But did you catch where Brian says he uses, he takes that second formation just to get that unit of 6 Gepards?
Mm-hmm. I believe it completely. I think they're one of the best units the West Germans can field. Probably the one that everybody wants to take. They're just so good at multi-purpose, not necessarily just for shooting down airplanes, keeping that honest, but killing BMPs. That's probably the best unit in the game for killing BMPs and other light vehicles.
Well, there you go, Ed. You need to get some more Gepards.
I mean, I've seen some players try to run 12 of them, which might be a tad too much.
Yeah.
And the mortar, the light mortar in the mech platoon is just a knee mortar, so it's just a direct fire mortar, so it's not actually.
Yeah, it is a direct fire mortar, and it can be mounted on vehicles as well. I think it's breech loading too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's still just another stand to take that hit. They're just so hard to get rid of those. It's a lot bigger, more solid formation than most NATO infantry can take.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I think we're going to redress this again in his Team Yankee list a little bit later, because I think it's very similar to what he's running next weekend. Well, cool. All right, Ed, how about you cover the World War II? We have the and you want me to start or to get the winner's name when we get to it?
Jubek?
Yeah, okay, you're good.
All right, yeah, okay. All right, well, it looks like we got a 105.3 round game also in Collinsville there. And first place we had Zubek, John Zubek, playing British. Chris Fetz in second position, playing Americans, of course. In third position, John Myers playing German. And Brian Coach is, there you go again, in fourth position playing German. And then finally, Andrew Kinnemer playing British. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they only had 14 for. Yeah, just top 5's good. I guess you can mention John Pirtle got best painted, and Everett Chun got best sport. Probably nice to make note of them. And on the previous event, Charlie Clay got best painted for his new T-62 Iraqis, and then John Pirtle got best sport on that one. So he got best sport for 2 days in a row. So good on John Pirtle. And John Jubek's list there, he had a pretty interesting list. Very interesting because he ran. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. He got the. Just cut. Oh, you want me to cover? What did you say?
If you wish.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, yes. He was playing the Italian Churchills, and he had let's see, 1, 2, He had one platoon of the Churchill Squadron is just one troop of it. Then he had 2 Sherman troops, only 2 Shermans and 1 Firefly. Didn't go for the full meal deal. I don't even think they had that option in Italy. So I think that's the max you could have. And so he also had some cool support. He had the Avar assaults there with the petards on them.
Avray, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Avray. Mm-hmm. All right. And 2 M10 platoons, full strength with the Achilles. Mm-hmm. And he had a Desert Rat motor infantry platoon, small. Yeah, let's see. He had plenty of recon here. He had a recon squadron, and the full squadron there of Domlers and Dingoes and UCs, and a 3-inch mortar platoon with that group as well. And yeah, that is a pretty awesome group.
Yeah, it strikes me he has 10 17-pounder guns. The 2 M10 units and then the 2 Fireflies embedded in the Sherman troops. And it's funny that it's an Italy Churchill squadron and it only has 4 Churchills, and then it has 6 other tanks in it. And not a whole lot for bombardment. I guess the Avrays can run up and bombard at close range, but just the mortars. Not a whole lot of indirect and not a whole lot of infantry.
Well, he does have a 3-inch mortar platoon. He does have that in there, and then he has the 2-inch with the Desert Rats. But that's it.
That's a direct fire mortar. Yeah. Aaron, what were you going to add?
I was going to say it's pretty, like, it's got most of the bases covered, though. It has the 2 templates, even if the one is the really short range one. And I'm sure he uses the smoke to get the AVRE and the Churchills up in people's faces. And then he's got the 2 almost to 4 good solid like standoff units in the Achilles and the Shermans, which can dual purpose, and plenty of recon to get them up in your face. So it's interesting.
We would call those Overwatch units.
Yes.
That's right.
Overwatch. Yeah, I just wish I had more infantry. Those little motor platoons are just so frail. But no arguing with success. He went to first place.
I think that's just putting it in the points there a lot of times. I with British personally, I don't think you need infantry. Like I've been running a Daimler armored car troop with the same corps he has there in the Recce squadron, and between the 2 Crocodile units I run and the 2 Achilles units, you generally don't need infantry with that much flamethrowers. But it's definitely an interesting take. I'm going to suggest that to a local here.
Yeah, I did a playtest game this weekend, and my infantry. It was just basically was a tank fight, but it was really cool how the infantry kind of ran a screen for the tanks and just kind of formed a buffer at the very end. You wouldn't think the infantry would have any place on that battlefield, but they basically secured the victory. They didn't take the objective, but they kept the enemy away from the objective. So pretty interesting stuff. But cool. Well done there, John. And then we go into a tournament that I got to run. This was Hard Knocks Games. It was the same weekend, and we set this event up after Daikon was already filled. So once Daikon was filled and nobody else could get in it, we were asked by our game store. They were kind of light for events and said, "Hey, you guys want to run a Flames of War Team Yankee event?" And I said, "Well, I'll run the Flames of War event." And with the big guns at Daikon, I was hoping it would be a good event for a lot of our local players to kind of continue to develop. And it, to a large extent, it still was, but we still had some pretty big guns come in. We had Joe Lewis and Scott Ernie come in from Indianapolis. Jim McKinney, he basically is a local from us. He's out there in Broadhead. He's about maybe an hour and a half away from us, but he's as close to us for gaming as he is anywhere else. So that one, we ended up having 14 players, and we did it as our fashion, red versus blue, and it was all D-Day list. So we had 7 Germans and 7 Americans, and I think we had 3 players switch to play Germans, one of which was Ed Hall, who, again, took his 21st Panzer Division.
Took my 21st. They're going to win one day.
Yeah, well, Aaron said on one of the Battle Rankings video cast, he was asking if you're going to run 21st at Huntsville. And I said, yeah, I think he is. And he said, we're going to have to run an intervention.
A 21st intervention.
Well, anyways, so what we had for the top 5 there out of our 14 players, Jim McKinney running German Beach Defenders, and he had Pack Front and some Tigers. And he also had those captured Russian 76 millimeter guns. He had 2 units of those, so he had a lot of artillery and part Pac 40s, a lot of direct fire AT, as well as the Pac front and the Tigers, and then really crappy infantry. He won his first 2 games and played Joe Lewis in the last game, but got flamethrowered pretty badly by the Crocodiles. Brian Huss, local player, was playing Panzer Grenadiers. Well done, Brian. He came in 4th. Scott Ernie was running British paratroopers from Indianapolis. He came in 3rd. Tom Wilson, another local player, and he's a guy who's not played a whole lot lately. He's really has missed out on most of version 4, but I tell you what, he just ran a solid list with U.S. rifles formation and a U.S. tank destroyer formation, and good solid basic stuff, and he hung right in there up to 2nd place. And then Joe Lewis went 3 rounds undefeated, and so did Tom, but Joe had more points, and so Joe ended up at top place. And he ran a Desert Rats rifle company, and I'll just go ahead and segue right into it, with a headquarters and then 2 Desert Rat rifle platoons, the 3-inch mortars and Wasp. And I think the Desert Rats, they're reluctant for unpinning. Yes. And last stand, I think, or no, they're reluctant for last stand. For unpinning, they're normal, like a confident. 4+. Right. So it's a pretty good price discount to get those. And then so that was his main core. And then for support, he had a pair of Crocodiles. I don't like the pair. I'd have to have 3. Dangler Dingoes, M10s, a Sherman troop with 1 Firefly, 3 Shermans and 1 Firefly, and then some U.S. Allied veteran M4 75 millimeter Shermans running around. And then he also had the FFI platoon, which is not as good, right? The British one is not as good as the one the Americans get.
Well, it's the standard British rifle, but it's still fearless trained, that one. They still have the fearless trained or the reluctant vet or an option, but that's the it's not bad. Like I think it's better if you want to be aggressive, because the reluctant, you get stuck and don't get unpinned. So I think both.
Well done.
The general consensus is you want those.
Okay. Well done to Joe. I think he ended up, he had 8 in the last round. I think he had 8 points in the first round and maybe 7 in the second round, so almost a perfect score. So good job there, Joe Lewis. And then I'll let you guys, because this is the one you're at. This is the last one we have to cover. This is Huntsville, Alabama, Station Retro. And go ahead, Ed. You can pick it up with 3rd place. Let's pick it up because I don't know who got 5th or you can just run through those whole details if you want to, but let's work from the bottom up on that one.
Bottom up with 9th place?
Yeah.
What do you? Hold on.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Go from 9th place on up. Sure.
It was, before we go there, it was a really close scoring. Like in the 3rd through 9th was a difference of 2 points. So the 9th place person was 1 point behind a 4-way tie, which was 1 point behind 3rd place.
Wow.
Yeah, Aaron, you take this one, man. You take this one.
Okay.
How many total players were there?
We had 18 at the beginning. It was a 5-round event. I'm pretty sure we had the 18, like 17, and then there was 18. A store ringer. And a few people did drop out or had to get called into work on the second day, so we weren't quite that big the second day. But so it was a full 5 rounds. But after that, it was a really close. Like after the 4th round, there were a lot of people who still could sneak up into the top there. And number 9 was the gentleman I drove over with from Atlanta, Mr. Richard Sanders, and he was running a Soviet Churchill list. Yeah, and then 4 through 8, he was pretty happy with that, especially since he'd never played the list and played 2 Masters players in his first 2 rounds. But the 4 through 8, a lot of you will recognize these names, was Joe Lewis, who ran Romanians, and it started out Allied. It started out red versus blue, too, so Joe Lewis was playing his Soviet Allied Romanians. And then we have Brian Coaches there, who was running a 1/16th, which he was actually practicing for his trip to Europe that's coming up. Also in that tie was James Best Jr., who was running some sort of Soviet infantry with KV-8s and partisans, but I wasn't near enough him to remember quite exactly what was there. And then last in that 4-way tie was Mr. Charlie Clay, who was playing his brave Fallschirmjäger Stugs with elephants and artillery. We had a real good game in one of our games. You want to answer to number 3 there, Ed?
Yeah, that guy was playing the Finns. That was me. Yeah, that was me. I didn't go with. I just wanted to play them. I had no hopes for these things because it's such a small force. I only had 3 Soviet tank T-34-85s, 3 Sturmies, which were the Stugs, and I had 2 Pac 40s. That's it, and then and some infantry and some machine guns. That's it. And I was submarining into the right. Right, yeah. I started in the loser bracket, but it was a lower bracket because my first game I had a draw. It's a 2-1 draw. I had a 2, and so and then sure enough, I won the next 2 games, and that put me in the running going into day 2. And then I ran into Brian Coaches, and it was like a brick wall, man. I just hit that thing and fell over to the side. Anyway, they were just dying like flies in a vacuum. But got the last round and ended up in 3rd place. So I was shocked.
Oh, well done.
I think everybody else was shocked too.
Was this the first time that you ran fins in a tournament?
Yeah, first time. You guys gave me so much crap about my 21st. I was going to take, and I said, well, you know what? I've got fins. I'll just take those guys.
Just got the new cards. They're ready to roll.
That's right. I just got them. Yeah.
And what Ed has done is he's also put a or go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say,
Ed has put a target on his back, though, because now Ed, with this one, this is the first tournament going into the battle rankings that we know of, and Ed is now top Finn in the the battle rankings now. So we'll see how long that can last. There'll be a few of us coming for you, Ed, but well done.
All right.
Well, you know what else is there, Aaron? Aaron, you know what else Ed is?
What is that?
He's the top 21st Panzer player.
Well, those are both some pretty high bars.
I know I'm the only one, I guess.
I'm sure you're not the only one.
But, we need to get Joe to put in a special category for top 21st Panzer, the Von Luck Award. Ed would be on it.
Okay, I'll take it.
All right. Well, let me. I'll cover Jonathan Meyer's list. He came in second, and he was running the ever popular 116th Panzer Grenadiers with Speerverband. Oh, so that's interesting. So he brought in some bag racing stuff in there. Ferdinands, Packs, 40s, Stumbles, and half tracks, probably flamethrower half tracks, and some gun Stukas. Yeah. So that'd have been cool to see. And then, man, I hate this guy who came in first. Man, this guy's cool. He just absolutely is one of those most miserable. No, anyways, so Aaron, you also you came in first, and you ran 116th Panzer Grenadiers also. So why don't you tell us about your list?
Yep, I brought both my armored cars and this to the tournament because I always try to help out when I can. And this was my last time I was in Huntsville. I played the armored cars and did okay with them. And then this time was Germans. And it's just really hard to beat the SS support combined with the discounts you get from the 116th. So I was just running a standard Panzer Grenadier company, and I decided to go a little more anti-tank heavy. So I have 2 short platoons of Panzer Grenadiers, both with added on 2 Panzerschrecks each, and then also the Panzerfaust. And those are kind of my defensive corps. But to give me a little bit more mobility and also for reserves, I have a reconnaissance platoon as the second block box in the 7 250 half tracks, and they also have the Panzerfaust. I'm running because of the. I don't really like 2-gun teams, but the 8-centimeter mortars, you can't say no at one point after the discount. And then instead of the lucky card this time, I took the 2-centimeter light AA because it's also just a point there, and it's another corps platoon, and it helps with the reserves. And then my favorite unit in the list is right now the armored 7.5 gun platoon, the little stumble half tracks, and I run 6 of those. And those can be really good surprise units from ambush. Those are generally my ambush unit. Support, like I said, I use the SS support because it's one of my friends who's a local here I play against a lot. He loves his SS Wesp artillery battery and Hummels, and for 16 points, it's hard to go wrong for both of those. And then I've got Panzer III Observer for those, and then 2 of the SS half-track 250/9 2-centimeter patrols. And then the other part of my reserves is the 2 SS Tigers. So I've got those. Usually it's those and the armored guns that are my reserve with a couple of the smaller units just to balance out the points. And the last little bit there is I have a 88 pack front, and I usually downgrade it to get more points back. So it's usually the confident trait version, and just the independent teams there. I don't always place them as well as people like John Cederberg and a lot Tim McClellan and some others who have run a lot more times with it. But I really like having teams that you have to deal with that just slow up your opponent, and you can put them out and you don't care if they die. Like, you put them where you need them and keep a couple in reserve. And
totally with you. I'm a big fan. I don't know when the last time I played Germans without pack front is. I mean, I just think they're fantastic. And also have been liking lately taking machine gun nest as well. So you have pack fronts and you have machine gun nests just conveniently placed within 8 inches of them. So they provide defensive fire if the infantry to kind of move up on the packs, and if the tanks try to move up on the machine guns, the packs take care of them. So makes almost a self-contained wall that you can just kind of cordon off a whole area and leave it alone. So yeah, I like it. I like them. I know they can be taken out, but but they're good.
I actually ran into that in my last game. Brian Coaches was doing that with his practice list, where we had a nice pack front war, which was kind of interesting because we just had to wait and see whose pack fronts came out on top. And this time it was mine. And he didn't like it too much when the Tigers drove over his infantry when they could finally get up to the objective. But
yeah, he probably got that.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say he probably got that pack front and machine gun nest idea from me, from Wolf Craig. So
it could be. I mean, he was running. It's very similar to what he said he was running at Dicon, because he is testing it for his trip this summer to Europe for the Switzerland ETC replacement, which I can never remember the acronym for. It's like SFFC or something like that. But definitely want to do that one of these years. It could be a lot of fun, and it's always good to meet new people. That's really what I do these for, is to see people like Ed and Tom and Joe, and it was nice. I'd never played Jonathan Meyer before, and so we had a really good game 4 there, and he had me on the ropes, and he wasn't expecting me to roll my artillery up into the front line. And we had a flamethrower half-track and Stummels and armored Panzer Grenadiers versus West Hummels and a Panzer Grenadier duel, which was definitely back and forth, like from turn 2 onwards. A lot of good games, and I will never forget that night in Paris there, Joe, our time on the Arc de Triomphe in Game 1. That was some good stuff. But
he's talking about the board. There's a board there. Yeah,
it's just literally the 3D printed Arc de Triomphe with the square around it and some buildings and a lot of wood. So it's a very interesting board, because you think it's pretty wide open, but all those wood sections means it's some really interesting line of sight things. And it was an 8-1 in my favor, which is rare, but Joe was very close, and I got a very lucky pin, and that bought enough time for my reserves to come in and push him back. But
excellent.
That was the board that Brian Coaches beat me on. I figured, plenty of woods, my Finns are going to love it. Well, they ran into a bunch of machine guns that just youch.
Yeah, even when you only hit on 5s, a lot of machine guns will tear up infantry.
Yeah, it did every time.
Very good. Well, cool. Well, that's a pretty good amount of events. I'm glad you guys both had a great time in Huntsville, and I guess between the 3 of us, I didn't play this month. I only ran an event, so I'm absent from these. And Ed, you played in 2, and Aaron, you played in 1.
Yeah, just the one.
So these ones we just covered. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll come back from the break, and we'll take a sneak peek at the Team Yankee contenders for the U.S. Team Yankee Masters.
When it comes to paint, tools, and hobby supplies, Hard Knocks Games offers quantity and quality. We carry hundreds of hard-to-find products from brands like Ammo of MiG, Mr. Hobby, and AK Interactive. Come shop our massive selection of games, model kits, and more at 5571 North Dixie Highway, or find us online at hardknocksgames.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back from the break. Glad you could join us for an in-depth analysis of the Team Yankee Masters 2021 list. Aaron is still with us. We lost Ed due to some technical difficulties. So actually, this is our second attempt to record this section. We recorded it yesterday. Ed and Aaron and I all had a great talk, and then realized that there was a lack of the recording button being on. so we had to come back the next day, and but Ed couldn't join us. So it's Aaron and I trying to recreate the magic that we had yesterday. And I trust we'll do a decent job giving you some analysis of these 16 lists and what's going on with it. So, Aaron, you about ready to go on it?
Sure.
All right.
have a
Well,
good run
why
here.
don't you start? Yeah. So why don't you start off and tell us how the format for Team Yankee Masters will work?
Okay, so this year, everybody who's going had to come up with a 70-point core, which is going to be the core of their formation, and that cannot change in any form or fashion. So you're locking in that 70 points, and then there's 6 games, and each of the 6 games, you're going to have to use a sideboard. So there's essentially 3 different sideboards you have, and you'll use each sideboard twice. The actual points we'll be playing, or that will be played, will be determined randomly. So the first game could be 80 points, the next one could be 100, could be 90, or you might get both your 80s out of the way. So it's definitely some interesting list building decisions that people had to do, and a lot of people just choose to upgrade what they had, and some really vastly change their things, taking extra formations. And the one wrinkle in all this is not only are the points random, you are limited in the number of times that you can choose each stance from the mission matrix. So you're essentially going to only be able to use attack twice, defend twice, and maneuver twice. And it's going to be real interesting to see if people choose to go ahead and like always defend with their 100 points, or if they're going to wait and try to see the table and the matchup to determine that. I'm definitely hoping Joe keeps some good notes there, Tom. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely needs to, and you have to have a balanced list. You have to be able to attack and defend. And sure, you could just save the 100-point for what you really want to do, but then you're going to be struggling on all those other missions. So everything is got a yin and a yang to it. You go one direction and you get pulled another one. So it's a very interesting format.
No, I definitely think it's I like it better than the Masters this year, but then again, I was in the that wrong side of luck in that one. But so I might be a little personally biased there. But thank you, Brian.
The Flames of War Masters in November.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Which we both were at. I think you still did better than me. I think I was like one of the bottom 3 guys.
Yeah, due to a last-minute submarining against Mr. Jackson, I did do okay. I was barely in the top half, but just barely. But it's definitely a long day. I kept seeming to be underpointed, so I'd lose. I didn't start out well, so I lost my first couple games. And since it was random matchups as well, I ended up playing against people who had more points or had more points of me after losing, which is not what you expected. But no, it's good times, good games. But,
I
think this is. Or go ahead, sorry.
No, I was thinking that it's going to be interesting of when because you still have the choice of attacking, defending, and I presume that maybe. I mean, I really don't particularly care with my list. I built it to be ready to do what it needs to do. But there's some missions that I definitely really like to defend on, and there's some when attacking could almost be an auto win for me. So it's gonna, and I really haven't figured out what do I want to do at each level. So I probably end up so the boards can be part of the factor. I'm thinking I may just try to use one of each on the first day and one of each on the second day. I'm not really. I would say that my bigger point lists are geared more to the attack because they have more artillery, and as we're about to find out, there's a lot of infantry in the Masters. So I think they're my better attack list, but they can defend extremely well too because they got a ton of stuff. So I'm kind of do I want an easy chance to win a defend, or do I want a decent chance to win attack? And then if I take the easy chance to defend, does that mean when I'm playing at lower points I have to attack where I'm less prepared to attack? So it does put you some interesting dilemmas that you have to deal with throughout the whole event. And I honestly, even though we're only a few days out, I still haven't quite figured it out yet.
No, that's definitely something to ponder here. I think it's going to be real interesting, and I do hope there's good records of it, and I'm sure Joe will give a good recap, and I'm looking forward to watching his stream of it that he's planning on putting on. But,
yeah, great point. Great point. There will be a stream. Unfortunately, by the time this podcast is published, the event will probably have already happened. We're just 3 days out from Saturday, so odds are you won't be hearing this podcast until it's over with. So you already know the winner of the event. So we'll see what we can do as far as predicting that during this whole breakdown, anyways. But let's get into it. So let's go ahead and have you, Aaron, start off. And what we'll do is there's 16 players, and is that correct? Is it 16 or is it 18?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 16. 18
players. No, we got
there's
17.
a couple missing. There's a couple drops. That's why the seedings are.
Oh, I see. So what we'll do is we'll go from where people were seated. So you may hear some numbers skip because some of the people who, let's say someone who was ranked 6th decided not to show up. So we will run down by rankings from the lowest seed that got in, who they are. Maybe we can add where they're from, what kind of force they're running, and a general breakdown. Maybe a quick little bit of commentary. So we'll do that going through the 16 list that we have, and then afterwards we'll come back with some just kind of overall trends and analysis. And maybe dare to ponder who might take this thing. Although honestly, with this format and this group of great players, that's almost a futile. It's almost going to be too hard to do. So let's start off with you, Aaron, with the number 17 seed.
Yes, as Tom mentioned, the number 17 is Alex Higginbotham. He is making a brave choice, and I really like it, of taking a Soviet Afghansky list as our first pack player. So in his list, he's got 3 units of Hinds in his core, and then small infantry to go with him, with the AA and the ATGMs. And then he's got some artillery and some storms to back it up as his core. And in his extended list, it looks like he's adding a little bit of armor, and he's taken my favorite midbar Team Yankee tank for the Soviets, and that's the T-62M. So he adds in 5 of them in one of his list, a few more in his next with some recon. And then he actually takes a second formation of the T-62Ms and fills it out with some recon and artillery and AA. But I think he might catch some people because he's got a lot of aircraft in there in all of his list, and I think some of these might not have enough AA, but be interesting to see. That's definitely a finesse list, and if he plays it well, I think he could trip some folks up.
12 Hinds is cool to see on the table, and also you said air quotes artillery. What he has is he has 6 Hales, 6 of the BM-21s, so the large template with re-rolls. But the problem with that is any helicopter can spot for any artillery against it, and if they're not really spread out very well, those Hales can evaporate pretty quickly. But yeah, it is a very, very cool force, and it'll be glorious to see 12. I hope he has the rotors. Guys tend to leave the rotors off during games. I hope for the visual that he keeps the rotors on, and he's won Best Painted before too. He's from Fort Campbell. I don't know if he's still on active duty or not. He seems like he could actually, he seems like a soldierly kind of fellow. So perhaps he's still serving down in the Fort Campbell area. But he generally rolls up here to see us with John Purtle and those guys. So yeah, very cool force with a little bit of tanks when the T-62s roll in. And I know you think you say that is the best Soviet tank.
I think it is. I also say the BMP-2 is actually the best, but it's the best armor tank, and I think the T-80 is making a run for it too, but they're definitely different roles. And I just like the 62M because it's so cheap that you can fit a lot of them in there and still have a lot of infantry, which is what I generally run for Soviets. And it's a nice unit there.
All right, well let's. I'll pick up number 16, the next on our list, which is Andrew Hobson out of Able Company in Indianapolis, and he's running a list he's run a lot of. In fact, I played him several times recently against this almost exact list. He's running a British mechanized VF-432 unit, and then he has one formation, and then he has a Dutch Leo formation as well. So his core, he's got the 2 VF-432. Two VF-432 platoons. He has the Milan platoon, where it has 4 launchers and 2 vehicles. He's got the VF-432 mortars. I think they have a different designation. He's got 8 Milans total. Is that another add-on?
That was just me keeping track of how many Milans are there.
I get you. The total numbers of Milan. So he has the 4 in the Milan unit, and then 2 in each of his 2 mech platoons. So that's kind of one of his formations, and then kind of small, but his other formation has, it's got infantry, it's got the missiles, it's got the mortars, and then he's got the second formation, 12 Leos. I believe he's got a headquarters of 2 and a unit of 4, a unit of 4. There's a headquarters of 1, a unit of 4, a unit of 4, and a unit of 3 for the Leo platoons, or however the Dutch pronounce it. He's got 3 Purtles, the Dutch version of the Gepard, and then he's got 2 of those little really weird 113s. They're not an M113 like the American ones. They're kind of sawed off, the Dutch recon versions. So that's his 70-point main force, which is two separate formations. And then at 10 points, he adds 3 marksmen and 4 scorpions. So that's all Brits, right? And then at 20 points, he adds another M109 unit. He adds a unit of 4 of those. So he, in addition to what he already had at the 10-point level. And then at the 30-point level, he has M109s, marksmen, rapiers, scimitars, and scorpions. So he doesn't add to his Dutch throughout the event. They just keep adding to the Brits. So he's a very proficient player. I played him to a 3-3 draw last time we played with his force. The time before that, he beat me 6-3. Finally got his leopards on the flanks of my T-80, and that's what kind of convinced me not to take T-80s. Was that game from a couple months ago? It's like there's just so many of these light NATO tanks and it's just hard to protect their flanks, and because the T-80s have to roll forward to do what they got to do, so very very difficult to keep them in the game, in my opinion. So anyways, that's good force. Any comments on that one there, Aaron?
Well, I like it a lot. He's got a solid core of infantry to hold the line, and he's got the Leos to counterpunch or to do his attack, and plenty of AA, and the double Gepard/Marksman, which I think is one of the best light vehicles in the game there. And it's very solid.
I would probably like to see a little bit more artillery, given how much infantry is out there. He just has 2 templates, the mortars and the M109s, and he doesn't even have any. He only has 1 template until he gets to 20 points. But other than that, pretty stout. He's got the recon, got the infantry, got the missiles, got the tanks, got the ADA. It's not really missing anything. So, all right. So coming in next, we have another Able Company guy.
Yeah, and 15th seed in this round is Chris Fretz. He's a lovely gentleman from up there, and he also is going very similar to what Andrew has. He, instead of going with British mech, though, he's been running Dutch mech, and he has a Leo formation that's also Dutch there, Leo 1s. His core starts out with 2 of the nice Dutch mech platoons. I don't know the designation for their half tracks, and I'll probably butcher it anyways, but they're the standard ones there. He's got 4 of the toe-mounted Pratts, which is their little ATGM carrier, and then he's got 3 120mm mortars, 3 of the Pirtles, the Gepard clones, and OP, and then 14 Leo 1s with the 2 M113 reconnaissance in there, the Recce. So that's his core. So very similar, a little bit more spotting, a little bit more AT, but that's more of the just vehicle versus ground mount. For his 10 points, he also adds in a little bit of AA and 3 more Gepards. And then he adds a little artillery with 2 of the Lars. He's running German support, so he's got the little Lars rocket vehicles, rocket artillery with minelets. He, going into his 20 points, he keeps that same core of a same sideboard for the earlier, and then adds 3 109s and 2 Rolands. And then he just continues to add on to that force and adds 4 tornadoes to get up to his max points there. So a very well-balanced, definitely a counterpunch, can be out there with aggressive with the Leos when he needs to. And he definitely has a little more artillery than Andrew does. He has a little less recon in balance, so it's a little bit less light vehicles, a little more templates. So it's very similar. Definitely a good player with it. He's played it a lot too, for sure.
Yep, and I've played him a lot with that force. First game that we had was a draw. It was and then the second game was a win on my point. I was able to just slow him down. That turn 6 came up, and he was just not close enough to even push on the objective. And he was having abysmal luck that game too, by the way. So he's experienced with it. He knows what to do with it, and he's got it. It could certainly be. Wouldn't be surprised me if he's at top place. And I noticed that he dropped the helicopters. He used to take a lot of helicopters in the first couple games that I played him against, and he only has air at the 30-point level. So he's really gotten away from. He used to always have before he was even right off the bat using air and helicopters to kind of be his main heavy hitters of his force, but it looks like he's replaced those with more Leopards, probably for the more survivability and the move and shoot capability and so on. So I think I had effect on his force with deciding to not go so heavy into the Air Force. And I like what he did, and Andrew did the same thing, and I did the same thing, and as other people did too. My force continuously builds between the levels. So some people totally swap out like entire different things when they get to these different levels. But I just kept adding because the Soviet force is so big that you just need to, it's just so much stuff to carry around. I've got this one big, huge tray of stuff, and I also have a bunch of helicopters, so it just doesn't make sense for me to be packing and unpacking stuff all tournament long. So, okay, well, good deal. I will move into the next one with John Holland, who was the 13th seed. So whoever was 14th couldn't make it or dropped out or whatever the case may be. John's from Virginia, who just retired from active duty, by the way. Congratulations, John. About a week ago or 2 weeks ago. He's a brand new civilian, and it'd be great to see him. Maybe he'll have a beard or something when we see him this weekend. So we'll see how he's doing. But he's sticking with the old U.S. He's played a lot of U.S. and he's going with 113 mech, so kind of old school U.S. And he's got the 2 mech platoons, one full size and one short mech with a reinforced dragon. He does have 4 M1s, the stock M1s, not M1 IPs. M113 scouts, and so that would be the mix of the tow launcher and the 113 50 cal.
Correct.
How they do that, 2 vehicles. Yep. So he's got those. 3 M106 mortars, 6 ITVs, the improved tow vehicle. Was that the M901? I think they call that.
I think it is. Yeah.
And those will each be sections of 2. So that's like 3 sections of 2 out there. And then he has 4 LVA. What is that? The 4 LAVAD.
Yeah, the air defense labs, the cannon and Stinger.
That's what that is. Lav AD. Yeah. Gotcha. All right, so that's his core force. And then as he goes to add his sideboard, at 10-point level, he has 2 Sergeant Yorks and 3 of the RDF tanks. So he's going through a little more air and a little bit more anti-tank. And then at 20 points, he adds in the 2 Yorks, the 4 RDF tanks. So whatever used in 10 points is not being used in 20 points. Adds another RDF tank, another 4 tow 2s. HFSPs, is that the Humvee fire support? Yeah, Humvee fire support. Yep. And 2 Lav 25s. What are those, recon for them?
Yeah, they're just the lab recon section. Or it actually might be just from the Lav, the combat platoon from the Lav formation.
Yeah, I was just wondering why he only took. Just wondering why he only took 2 of them, unless he just.
I guess it's just a point.
Yeah.
I guess it's just a point left over. Yeah.
Yeah. And then at 30 points, he has the 4 Yorks, 4 RDF, so he's just keeps adding to his stuff. Humvee scouts, the 4 tow 2 fire support guys, tow 2 heavy support.
The scout section, Humvee scout section.
Yep. Heavy support scouts, and then it still has those 2 labs. I don't know what they're doing there, but he still has those. So John's got a pretty good U.S. list. Is bringing some heavy tanks, but is basically a mech force, and it's got some decent amount of anti-air. Not so much on the artillery. All he has is the 3 106s across all forces. So I think, and with those Humvees, the only thing he has that can plow into on the attack is his M1s, and they're not even the upgraded M1s, so they can be dealt with pretty easily. So I think he's gonna have a hard time to attack. And that's your comments. I'm looking at Aaron's. Aaron has little comments there. He says, "Yeah, hard to attack with only 4 M1s and 1 artillery." Yes, exactly what I was just saying.
Yeah, thanks for leading my talking points, Tom.
Sorry, man.
No, it's fine. I think he might have a tough road. I started with the U.S. mech, and I just don't like the U.S. infantry. And I think the Marines are fine. The new light infantry from the Humvee formation are fine, but and the airborne rifles aren't bad either. But I don't like those 4 rifle stands and some dragons. It doesn't last. And with only the 4 normal M1s, I think he's going to have a tough road on those 2 attack missions, like you said.
You may have a hard time defending too. To tell you the truth, if the units are that small.
Yeah, they are rough.
Out. Yeah, and then if he loses his tanks, then the rest of those things will be kind of easy to pick off. But he may be like me. It's what he has. He may not have everything in the world for Team Yankee. Some of us, all of us play. I think everybody on this list here also plays Flames of War, and so I could probably field anything from any theater that you want for Flames of War. I've got crates and crates of that stuff, but when it comes to Team Yankee, I just got limited choices, so enjoy it as well. But I just haven't really expanded those collections as much, and I don't intend to. I don't plan to have 13 Team Yankee forces. So anyways, so good, Jill. Looking forward to see John. Let's see if he has any facial hair when he shows up, and well, I'm sure we'll enjoy having a few beers with him at the evening dinner parts. So why don't you get us into number 12 there, the next one up?
Okay, I will do that. But before I get there, this is one of the formations Ed liked, and what Tom mentioned there was why Ed liked it is because that's what was in the service with him when Ed was in the service. So he just liked this because it reminded him of his time back in the Army there. So I remember this was one of the ones Ed really liked from yesterday. But number 12C.
Yeah, right.
Going into the next the list is our next another technically NATO player, although Tom believes they should be Warsaw, is Ryan Waldock, and he is bringing the first Iraqi player here, and he's coming in with Iraqi mech as his core, and then in his 30 points he adds in a Humvee section, kind of what Chris Fretz loves to run. It has convinced me is not a bad thing, so I've been buying Humvees. But the core of Ryan's force is 2 mid-size BMP-1 formations and then a short BMP-1 formation. He's got some Shokas, 5 T-72Ms, and then he is going in with the Air Force. He's got 2 units of 4 Hinds and 4 U.S. Allied Harriers. So right off the bat, he's bringing more air than most people, and especially that lower points, that might be a lot of air for people to deal with. But going into his first sideboard, or go ahead, Septime.
Yeah, and did you skip the 5 T-72s?
I thought I mentioned it, the 72Ms, but
yeah, okay, yeah. So it's some decent tanks.
Yeah, nice little combines arms force there, although he's a little light in artillery. So his first sideboard goes to fix that. So he's got 3 of the rocket hail, like earlier. He's got an OP and then a couple BRDM 2s for recon, and then 3 of the French auto-loading artillery, which I don't remember the designation, the AFM. Or AMX F something, but the 155 autoloaders, which are really, really nice pieces of kit there. And then he expands on that, and it's 20 points. So he's added Carnations as well as the Hails and the Recon OP and the French artillery, and he also adds in the French hot tracks, the Mephisto equivalents that the Iraqis get to take, and a little bit more AA in the Gaskins. And then his 30 point changes a little bit because he's got the heavy cavalry function, the patrols, with 3 of the 2 tow Humvee scout sections. So he's just got tow 1s, but he's got 2 tow 1s in each of those. So he's got 3 of those in the HQ. And he still has the Carnations, the Hails, the French artillery, the hot carriers, and then he's upgraded his Gaskins to Gophers. So he's upgraded his AA and then added in a lot more tows, even if they're just tow 1s, so they're not as good as the tow 2s for the big tank killing, but that's still a good chunk more of AT-21 and AT-22, which really covers for his BMP-1s and his T-72s. And he still has the 8 Hinds that are really good at killing stuff. So this is one of my favorites here, because I generally end up running a Warsaw Pact, and this is something very similar to what I would have taken, although I probably would have gone Soviet. But it's definitely an interesting formation. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Nice force, and the reason I think the Iraqis, particularly in this event, should be considered Warsaw Pact is because their core is still NATO, or still Warsaw Pact equipment and still Warsaw Pact doctrine, and their stats are virtually the same except for their motivation. They're just like confident instead of fearless. But all their training and as you pointed out yesterday during our first recording, they don't have the 5+ firepower for the infantry teams. So I guess they're lacking the little short-range grenade launchers or something. But in fact, I was so impressed when I looked at these Iraqi lists and realized how Soviet-like they were. I went out to Hard Knocks Games and I bought the Soviet unit card, the Iraqi unit cards. So you may see me running mine as Iraqis in the future. But to me, they'll just be less motivated Soviets. So, and I do like how you can mix in some of the NATO kit. Nobody did it here, but I like the Alouette helicopters with the hot missiles. I like the AMX-30 F1 artillery pieces. I like the Mephistos. So I think I'll proxy those things. I think I mentioned that I'd like to run, instead of Alouettes, I'll run like Havoc helicopters if I can find some 3D print files or some 1/100 models for them. And then for the MX-30F1 artillery pieces, I'll use my Danas that I have, my Czechoslovakian Danas. So and the Mephistos, I'll just use my AT6 Storms as the Mephistos, which in my opinion should have the hammerhead rule anyways, but that's a different discussion. So I'm kind of warming up to the idea of Iraqis because of what I've seen here, and they're cheap. They're even cheaper than the Soviets. So yeah, they have that handicap, slightly less morale, but the point savings lets you bring in some really useful NATO stuff that you normally wouldn't get in a Soviet force, like long-range ATGMs that are have the hunter-killer rule, or the special artillery, or et cetera, et cetera. So I'm kind of digging them. I think you're going to see me play Iraqis in the future, although it's going to be the same models you're seeing right now with a few additions.
Mm-hmm. No, it's definitely some nice stuff. One of my main opponents has switched to Iraqi, so I get to see a lot of this stuff, and it's trying to kill me. The only interesting one he didn't take is I'm really a big fan of the ZSU 57s because they're so cheap and they're very multi-role because of the high AT. They're really good at killing the light and medium stuff. But definitely an interesting list. Do you want to take us on to the next one here, Tom?
Sure. And by the way, I should have mentioned, I'm pretty sure Ryan Waldock, and we have a group of 4 people who came from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Ryan is the first of those that we're talking about here. And the next one is also coming from Minnesota. J.B. Cedarberg Jr., or the younger, who's really come a long way in his Flames of War and Team Yankee gaming. And enough to qualify 11th as 11th seed so comfortably in the Masters round. And I played him too with this force in the various Wolf Craigs that we've been at. And he's running Israeli mechs combined formation with West German mech, which it just blows my mind how we can get these combinations. But I guess more power to everybody. And Israel has a really strong infantry force in this game system, and a lot of people taking advantage of it. And JB's one of them. So he's got 3 mech units. And they're very big. They have a lot of infantry and the small mortar and the Dragon and the RPG-7. So they're pretty stout force and really good stats. So he's got 3 mech platoons. He's got the mortar platoon, and then he has some Milan mech guys. And then for his West Germans, he has martyrs. And 9 martyrs with the headquarters and 2 platoons, and then he has 4 Gepards and some Luke's reconnaissance to give him some of that. So that's his core force. Only mortars in there and only a little bit of ADA. But then as he goes to the 10-point sideboard, he has the Perez, which if you're running Israelis, I guess you have to take the Perez. It's just a unique kit they only can get, and a couple of tow jeeps. And then in the 20-point sideboard, he adds to those 3 Perez, he drops the Jeeps and he picks up 4 Skyhawks and then 3 M109 artillery. So at that point, he'll have 2 templates going for him. Then at the 30-point sideboard, he has the M109s, the Perez, the 2 tow Jeeps. He adds 4 VADs. The M113 air defense, Skyhawks. And the Skyhawks, did he take the napalm or did he just take straight up Skyhawks? Isn't that like an upgrade they have to take? Don't bother looking it up if you don't recall offhand.
Pretty sure he just had the base Skyhawks.
Okay. So pretty good force, but missing tanks of any sort, and so probably really good at defending. May have a hard time attacking. Just doesn't have a lot of stuff to move forward and shoot with. Just these martyrs, I guess, is the best thing, and they're pretty weak against most. I mean, they have a hard time killing BMPs with their main guns. So he may be hurting in the attack mode, but defending, he's going to be stout as you can be.
No, I double checked real quick, and he did not take the napalm upgrade, and apparently left it off. He also has some of the Lux recon there at the very end that he tucked in.
Oh, okay. So a little bit more
Lux, but yeah.
Paying the proper point for him, the new upgraded 2-point Lux.
Yes, he did. Well, I assume that's why there's 2 one-point sections on there. That's what I assume for most people. Most of our West Germans have done that.
Okay.
Because that was one of the new field manual things. Is both the Leopards and the new World War III German book have the corrected points, so they're 2 now for the 2 tanks instead of just the 1. But no, I agree with you though. I think he's going to have a tough time in his attack missions. because he went all in on the static, and that's one of my big problems also with the West German mech platoons that a lot of people seem to have taken is they're just so static, and with the 3 infantry stands and then the 2 rifles, or 2 Milan teams, they just kind of evaporate.
Yeah, they can't,
especially
they
if you
can't
got
move forward.
Yeah, I mean, if they move, they die, and even when they sit still, if you focus on them, they die. But I guess that's Team Yankee. But I think he'll be good on the defense, and I think he probably can do okay on the maneuver. But I think he's going to struggle on attack.
Yeah,
But,
I think
hopefully he proves wrong.
Yeah.
But,
Well, he's certainly going to be the youngest player there. Good Lord, he's still a teenager. He's a high school kid, I think. So he's definitely, but don't take him for granted. He'll play you hard. And our next guy is everybody's favorite opponent.
Yeah, it's Charlie Clay from Jacksonville, Arkansas, near Memphis. But no, he's coming in at number 10, and he is our second Iraqi and our first tanker, one of our few in the Brave. Being Iraqi, obviously he doesn't get real good tanks, but he decided to go with the T-62, and he has 3 units of 6 and an HQ. Then he's got a full BMP-1 unit. He's got 4 of those ZSU-57s I mentioned a little bit earlier, some BRDM recon. He also has the French AMX autoloading artillery, and then the HOTS, and then the Rolands and Heinz as his core. I'm pretty sure that's 4 Heinz in his core. He can, in his 10 points, he's adding in a little more tank killing because the 62 is not really a tank killer, and he's got a couple A10s. And then his 20 point, he just expanded his A10s up to 4 of them. And then his last one, he's got his 4 A10s, and then he's added 4 T-72Ms because it's a nice, easy 10-point unit right there. So Charlie, I think, is going to have the opposite problem of JB and John and a few others in here, and that I think he's going to have trouble with the defense in there because he's got to hope he runs into somebody who has to use an attack, I think, for his defense. But it'll be interesting to see how he does it. Maybe he'll say the tankers will save their defense for day 2. I don't know.
Deep reserves could wear him out. I mean, he just could really ruin his day.
Yeah, it's going to be just a support and BMPs on there. It's going to be rough for him.
Yeah. Well, that's Charlie Clay, though. He loves his tanks. He almost always plays a tank formation, be it Flames of War or Team Yankee. He rarely has infantry other than just in the supporting role. So and he was a tanker.
Yeah, I was going to say he's been getting a lot of practice in defending with tanks. Like I know he's been playing a lot of Flames of War games, including one last weekend where we played together, and my infantry ended up attacking his tanks in a fun little fight on one of Joe's tables. But he's gotten a lot of practice in that role these last couple of weeks, so maybe he's got it figured out.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how 19 T-62s do against these large forces of Leopards. I think it's going to be the who blinks first, who comes over the ridge first, who gets the jump shot. Because the Leopards, Leopards will just disassemble that force so they can just move up and shoot it. But if Charlie's in a position and he's able to, being attacking and not having all the Leopards on the board, he can mass those 19 tubes and just vaporize Leopards before they have a chance to do anything. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I do like the idea of it's kind of like the Leopards becoming the lead NATO tank and the T-62s becoming the lead Soviet tank. So people talk about Checkpoint Charlie. I'm like, people are already there. They've already regressed to the 1960s.
I prefer the little M addition, that extra stabilizer, some stuff. No, it's interesting. It's going to be fun for him, and I know he's got the A-10s in there as well as the Heinz to kind of plow the road. So if he can get rid of the air defense with the 62s and the BMPs, he could have good times. But I don't know. I'm hoping for him because he'll have fun one way or the other. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of burning T-62s on every table he plays on.
Yeah, he's always a great opponent. He's always having a good time, and normally he's the loudest person you hear, whether it was a great roll or a horrible, horribly awesome roll. He'll hoot and holler just as much. So we'll hear him across the room whenever something significant is going on his table for sure. So he gets followed by in the 9th seed, Tim McClellan, who's from the Pittsburgh area, and he's running the Devil Dogs, U.S. Marines. And running short units with his LVPT-7 transports, right? And then one full unit with plussed up with SMAWs and Dragons. He's got 5 M60s and 4 Lav 25s, 3 M109s, and the Humvee support troop, the TOW2 Humvee fire support troop. I'm trying to think of that acronym there for those guys. So that's his core force. Artillery. Does the Lav 25? I think I was asking earlier. Is that a recon vehicle? Can they?
I'm pretty sure it is a spearhead. I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay.
I'll double check real quick while you finish it up.
Okay. Yeah, that must be why. I'm just thinking that's why John Holland just took 2 of them, just for that, just to have a spearhead option. Anyways, let's continue on back with Tim McClellan. At 10 points, he increases his. He adds OP, a Humvee OP, and 4 RDF tanks. So gets a little bit more firepower with the hammerhead capability. And then at 20 points, he takes everything he had at 10 and adds another M109 unit and 2 VADs. So that's when he starts getting scary to me. He has 2 artillery templates at that point. And then at 30 points, he's got everything he had at 10 points, so which is the RDF tanks and the OP, plus 6 M106s. That's 2 units of 3, right? Of more.
I'm not sure. I think it is. I'll double check that too.
2 units of 3, or it's or a unit of 6. I think it's probably 2 units of 3. And then he also has a U.S. Full mech with mech platoon with with dragons. So missing anti-aircraft. No sign of anti-aircraft to be said in this force. So some of these folks that brought some a lot of airplanes are going to have a field day against his force. Doesn't really have heavy tanks to assault with. Just the M60s are there's just way too many things that can deal with those. So, but the Marine Corps is super tough infantry, big units, and then backs him up with some other mech later on. So, and also a very experienced player. Obviously, he kicks my butt every time we play Team Flames of War. So maybe in Team Yankee will be the right mix for me to finally do well against Tim McClellan, because he just tends to trounce me in Flames of War every time we play. So good force. I'm digging seeing some Devil Dogs out there and some LVPT7s, and with a little bit of Army flavoring to beef them up. So,
yeah, no, that's definitely my favorite infantry platoon, the Marine Infantry for the Americans. But the Labs are recon. They are Spearhead Scout units, so that's why they're in there. Okay. And the M106 mortars is actually just 1 platoon, because it's part of that mech formation. So it's just the combat platoon mortars for the M106. But I agree, he might have trouble with the M60s and then the RDFs, because the RDFs really cannot attack. They lose a lot when they have to move forward. But
they have to get out of cover. So is that 6 M106s in 1 unit? Is it a unit of 6?
It is.
Re-rolling? Oh, okay. All right. Well, good on him. That's a pretty scary template. So he's going to have multiple M109 templates and M106 templates. So yeah, he can blast some infantry out of some holes. He just has to worry about the aircraft coming in and taking out his artillery, and because there's no ADA to deal with it. So it's a little risky there, but could pay off. All right. So why don't we roll into 8th seed there with you got that one?
Mm-hmm. Our 8th seed is Patrick Rice, who is deciding to bring he's actually our 2nd armor player. He is bringing a West German Panzer Aufklärung, which I never can pronounce that word, the
Aufklärung.
I always butcher that, and it's bad because I play those forces a lot in Flames of War. You'd think I'd learned after all these years. Mm-hmm. And later on, he adds in a U.S. mech infantry, which I'm pretty sure are 113 mech, yeah. So his core is it's the hybrid formation there. So it's got 7 Leo 1s in it, some Lux infantry, or Lux, the recon, and then he's got some Fuchs mounted infantry, so the little VAB equivalents with Milans, and then he's got 4 Gepards, and then 3 Leo 2s. Our first German heavies there. Yeah. His 10-point sideboard adds in the lovely Tornadoes. He's got 4 of those and a couple red eye teams, so a little bit more AA. And then his 20-pointer, he's got looks like 7 Martyrs. So it's obviously some mech infantry coming in there, and some 3 mortars and 4 Milan in the mech. I didn't do very well in the shorthand, and he also still has the 2 red eyes in there. I'm messing up my own shorthand there. That's what you get when you make it up on a lunch break, as you're putting the spreadsheet together. Consistent. His 30-pointers, he's I'm not sure. The 2x3 Milan, I think, are West German infantry platoons. And it's not M113. It's the West German M113 mech. So it's the two of the 3 Milan M113 West German mech teams. That's where I got that confused. And he's got 4 more Leo 1s and then 3 of the mortars in the formation. So I'm pretty sure it's a West German mech formation rather than a U.S. mech formation.
Makes sense.
So it's yeah. So he's just adding in more infantry to give him. That's probably going to be his defense list where he adds in the mech infantry platoon. But with all the Leos and the Leopard 2s, it's going to be tough for him still on the attack, but not as bad, I don't think, as Charlie's plight. But,
What amazes me is that he only has aircraft at the 10-point sideboard level, and then he drops it. Does he just assume that when we get to the 20 and the 30 sideboard level that people will have enough ADA? Because a lot of people added ADA as they went along. So it's like, I'll just use it up front when people have less chance to have ADA, and after that I won't rely on it. Did you notice?
I did. I think that could be because it's definitely interesting in like the air versus AA, and we'll talk about that I'm sure at the end. But I think it's more of that he wanted more boots on the ground because if you notice he added infantry in both his 20 and 30 and a lot more in his 30. So I think that's probably his attack list. I'm guessing his attack list is going to be his 10-pointer. And then when he's attacking, you don't necessarily need the air when you're defending and maneuvering. So I would guess for him that his attack is going to be his 10-pointer, and then his 20-pointer is his maneuver, and his 30 is his defend. But I could have flipped the...
I'm jealous. He has a plan. He has a plan. I'm jealous.
We might be looking way too deep into this. Who knows? But it might actually be flipped. Looking at it again, since he doesn't have extra tanks in his 20, I'm guessing his 20 is going to be his defend. It's just a mech infantry platoon and some artillery added in, all of which would be on the board. So he just probably would have his Leos and maybe one of the platoons of infantry off the board and that. So that's my prediction. We'll see. I know Joe likes to keep track of like what stances people are doing, and I'm sure, I don't know if we'll get to see that or not. It'd definitely be interesting to see.
Yeah, and he's Patrick Rice is also, I believe, one of the 4 players coming down from Minneapolis. So one more yet to go that we'll get to later on. And so following Patrick at 7th seed from Virginia Beach area, I think. I know he's from Virginia. I think it's down the Virginia Beach area. William White, who I've only ever seen play French in Team Yankee. And he's showing up with a high-tech Soviet force. He's running the BMP-3s. And he's got all the goodies except for the T-80s. He's got the BMP-3 force, and he's got the upgraded RPG-7s and AA missiles at it. He's got a large force, a medium-sized force, a medium-sized force of those. Same upgrades for both. He's got 5 T-62s, 4 BMP-2 Recon. He's got the Tunguska. You get to see that on the table. And 3 Storms, the upgraded Storms with the 89. So kind of interesting to see that he took all the latest and greatest Soviet kit, except for the tanks. He defaulted to Aaron's favorite Soviet tank right now, the T-62. So must mean that they're serious contenders. When he goes to the 10-point sideboard, he's got a BMP-OP and Hurricanes and Gaskins. So he's using the I haven't seen these yet either. The BM-27, I believe is the number. So it's the rocket launcher that's upgraded from the Hail, and it can throw out minelets. I think it comes with those. They don't have to be upgraded. And I think that the Hurricanes, they have the same salvo template, but they hit it as hard as the Carnations. They have that AT4 firepower 3+. So they can do some serious damage if they're not dealt with quickly. So he's got those at the 10-point level. And then when he goes to 20-point, he has the, what do you mean by TOC BMP? Is that the TOS,
the thermobaric rocket launchers.
Oh, thermobaric, yes. Okay, TOS. It was TOC. I was like, what the heck is that? I was thinking TOC, Tactical Operations Center. And so he's got the TOSs there and the BMP-1. So he's got 2 big honking salvo templates, the Hurricanes again and the Gaskins. So he's going big on templates. Then 30-point sideboard, he has the TOSs again, the BMPs again, the Hurricanes again, 4 BMP-3 recon vehicles, and then Gaskins. So interesting force. I fear that it's great as a Soviet player that the BMP-3 can move and shoot, and including its missile, and that it has a breakthrough gun. But oh man, I hate seeing the small unit. Like I'm running 33 BMP hulls, and he's running what, like maybe 13, at least half that much. So I just don't know that it has enough hulls to absorb all those shots from leopards and dragons and Milans and all that other stuff. So we'll see how well it does. But I do admire him for taking a high-tech Soviet force. Just except for the T-62s, they probably should have been T-80s to be true to form, but wouldn't have had the points for him. And he's going to have some issues with deep reserves when he's defending, because those BMP-3s, they qualify for having to go into deep reserve. So that's going to be a bit of a headache for him. He's got some good AA, about as good as you can get, and he even though he has only 2 templates, they're salvo-sized templates, and they're very, very powerful ones. So I think the Israeli guys are going to have their Perez go right for those guys, and anybody else who has air is going to try to take those things out quickly. So it could work. I mean, he could cause a lot of damage to all these infantry forces, and even tanks, not the Tosses, they don't really do anything to a tank, but those Hurricanes, they're going to catch a lot of Leopards and a lot of Pertles and Gepards and Humvees. They're going to catch a lot of top armor 1 things by surprise. And people are like, what is your firepower? When they're used to just saving that stuff, and they're getting hit like they're being hit by carnations, but it's a large salvo template. So we'll see how William does with his. And I don't know how much practice he has. Again, I think he previously has been a fairly exclusive French player for Team Yankee. So we'll see how all this goes. So any other comments from you on him there, Aaron?
You've covered the main. The main thing was, as you mentioned, the deep reserves. Like, that's going to be rough, and there's a couple other people who are going to have similar issues because of deep reserves. But no, I didn't realize the Hurricane had minelets. That's definitely moved up in my wants queue. I knew they were good, a good artillery template with the AT4 and then the 3+ firepower. But I missed the minelets, so I'm going to have to get in on those.
And it's not upgrade; it's like included.
Yeah, it's base. Like I had to look that up.
Yeah,
I'm impressed. Okay. That's something that's moved up in my purchase queue for sure. They were on there for the 3D print queue, but they've moved up a notch or 2.
I learned you something. Where did you find your files for it from?
We can talk later. I bookmark all of them whenever I have them, so I'll send you a link later. But I also was thinking about just upscaling some and putting them on my Danas, because technically Soviets can't use Danas now, even though they did have a couple hundred. But I was thinking about using my Dana hulls for them too, and just making some launchers. But are you ready to move on to the next gentleman here? Yeah. Do you have anything else for Williams?
No, please go ahead. That would be you picking up.
Okay, and the number 6 spot coming in is Mr. Howard West, and he is also going to have some deep reserves, because Howard is bringing a Bradley M2 mech company, so a mechanized formation. And he's got 3 mech platoons, a total of 13 upgraded Bradleys, the M2A2, because they're the mech infantry ones. And then that formation, he's got 3 of the M106 mortars, which I really like that. I do miss those, because Soviets don't have an equivalent of those, but I really love those mortars. He's got 3 M109s with the minelets, an OP for both of those templates, and then 4 Stingers, and then 2 TOW-2 Humvee Scout Patrol, so the 2 TOW-2s in the Scout Patrol there for the spearhead and the tows. His 10-point sideboard is a mech M113 platoon, which is probably just the standard one, and then another of the 2 TOW-2 Humvee Scouts. So he's up to 2 there, and some nice firepower. His 20-pointer is an upgrade, just a continuous upgrade as the list, and he's got 4 VADs, so he's adding a little AA, and then another of the well, this is actually different. He's bringing the fire support platoon this time, which is the Humvee with the 4 TOW-2s in it. So a lot of AT-23s. And then this is where reordering the sheets messed up. But he, at 30 points, I'm going to find it real quick, he is bringing the same sideboard exactly as another player in our tournament, and that is a West German mech formation. And so it's 3 of the 2-man, I'm pretty sure it's an M113 mech formation. And it's the 2 Milans and 3 guys again, and it's got the little mortars in there, and 4 Gepards, and then the Lux for the recce. So he also has the 2, so I'm assuming it's just the 1 formation with the new points. So It's interesting. Like I think would be very solid on defense. I personally think the Bradleys, especially the upgraded Bradleys, are a little expensive, but that's because I've had a lot of fights with BMP2s against those, and the deep reserves, I don't like upgrading them for that regard too. The same we talked about with William with the BMP3s, because they're upgraded armor there. So in defensive missions, like I assume he's going to defend in the 30-pointer, because that's what the mech infantry and the M113s will be on the table. But if he wants his Bradleys, his U.S. mech platoons have to be off the table with him in reserve. And I also think he might have some trouble attacking too, because he doesn't actually have any real armor. And it's still the same small U.S. mech infantry platoon. But it'll be interesting to see. Like, that's a lot different from what I would normally run. And he's the 6th seed, so he obviously knows how to run it. But I'm also not familiar where he's from. Is he from the Pittsburgh area? Is that where he's from, that group?
You're correct. He's Pittsburgh, and he actually mostly plays East Germans. So I now, because he's normally playing Rich Bear, and Rich Bear is always playing U.S. They're like, buds, and so I haven't seen him run U.S. stuff before. So I'm just used to him showing up as an East German player, or maybe that's just what he travels with or something. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. He's got the deep reserves could be a bit of a pain, as you said, but and he's got the artillery, he's got the infantry. Does he have recon? Do we catch that? Oh yeah,
he does. He has 2 of the scouts.
Yeah, which are great if you have roads they can run down. Yeah. Otherwise, they don't spearhead enough for me. So good deal. All right, and I don't know if he's traveling with Tim McClellan, but they're both those guys are from the Pittsburgh area. And that brings us into the only guy from Wisconsin, I think, where he's from, and that's Dr.
He's from Michigan, isn't he?
Oh, Michigan, Wisconsin, and the same thing. I don't know. They're all up there north. Yeah, something next to Canada. I don't know. One of those places. So, anyways, David's playing Iraqi mech. So another Iraqi player. But he's the 3rd one now that we have, and he's pairing them up with U.S. Bradleys. And so he's got a full BMP unit, so that's pretty honking. But no upgrades, no air added, or no anything else. Just the full BMP, mid-size BMP, no upgrades. He's got the ZSU 57s, yay, nice 1950 technology. He's got 5 Bradleys with the M3A2 upgrade, and he's also running upgraded tanks, the M1 IPs, which is, I think, the best American tank, point-wise. That's obviously not the best stat-wise, but for what you get and what you pay for, I think the IPM1 is definitely the way to go. And so that's his core force. At 10-point sideboard, he has Acacia, so some Soviet artillery and Harriers. So because you notice he was missing air defense other than the Su-57s and the missing artillery in his main force, so he picks it up here. And then he totally dumps that for something completely different at 20-point levels. Now he adds an OP BRDM, I guess, to help out with the. Why did he add that if he dropped his because for the MX. Oh, he drops the Acacias and he adds in the AMX artillery, the French AMX 30 F1 thing. So he brings those. That's like, wonder why did he get rid of his OP? Or would he take an OP if he got rid of his artillery? Well, now I understand. He just switched out his artillery with something else. He's got some Gaskins and a pair of A10s. And then at the 30-point sideboard, he pretty much just upgrades what he's already got. He still has the OP. He adds in some BRDM, two BRDMs for recon. A unit of 6 AMX 30 Foxtrot artillery. So that's cool. So they reroll misses and get +1 to hit. So they're going to be kind of scary at that level. Going to be a high priority target for the Perez and any air strikes and helicopters and stuff. He has the 4 HOTS. What is the Mephisto? Is that the one that shoots those things? And,
it is the Mephisto, but it's the HOT carry. It's like the VCR HOT or something like that.
Oh, that's what they call it.
It's not the actual Mephisto, but it's the same missile.
The Iraqis during Desert Storm, man, they had all sorts of odd kit. They had not only the typical Soviet stuff. I mean, there was all these Brazilian armored cars they were buying, these EE-11 Arutus, and there was a lot of Chinese armored personnel carriers, the Y, whatever it is, or Type 59 or something armored. They had a really totally smorgasbord of stuff. I didn't see a lot of their French. I did see an Iraqi AMX 10P, which was already destroyed. The engine block had been melted, and so it flowed out of the front slope like a lava flow, and then hardened. It was kind of cool to see. So anyways, I've seen just a large amount of odd kit that the Iraqis had, and so he gets a chance to represent that here. And your comment here is defend how? So what are you referring there to, Aaron?
It's more of the deep reserves coming in again. So his IPM1s and all of his Bradleys, they're just the Cav ones, so that's actually the Cav formation. All that has to be in reserve is the thing.
Okay.
So I think he's going to struggle, and I don't think he has enough infantry necessarily to defend with all that in reserve. I might be wrong. I mean, he's run similar stuff I think before, but I mean, I guess I run bigger ones, so I don't trust it. But
I worry that without the upgraded RPG 7s, that those folks that did take the Leopard 2s and did take the T80s and did take the the M1s, A1s or whatever, they can just plow right in almost immediately into those formations with almost an impunity. So yeah, he's going to
I think that's why, at least in the bigger ones, that's why he's got the A10s and then the HOTS and the VCR/TH, which is the combat vehicle with a turret with HOT. That's really what that actually stands for. But no, I don't know. I think it's a lot of elite stuff. I agree with you that I think that's the best M1 out there, the IPM1. I think that 1 point per tank is worth a lot there. And I think that's about as heavy as you want to go. But I don't know if 3 of them are going to be enough for him. There's a lot riding on those 3 guys, 3 tanks.
Yeah.
But I think that's a lot of list, actually, too. So
that's
see how
true.
well David can run of it.
Common trend. Well, after David is some tool.
Yeah, I don't know what this guy's thinking. He's bringing Soviet BMP mech, mix of that, but at the 4th seat is some guy named Tom Burgess, wherever he's from.
Yeah. Hate that guy.
Yeah, no, he is, as he's mentioned several times already, he's bringing 2 mid-sized BMP-1s with a tandem charge warhead upgrade on the RPG-7s, and then because of that, all of his platoons carrying on have to have that. So he's also, as he also mentioned, he's got a mid-sized BMP-3 with the warhead upgrades on the RPGs. He's got 3 Spandrels, 3 Carnations, some 4 Gaskins, 2 BRDM, 2 Recon, and then a BMP-1 OP, which I know he's 3D printed recently. He's been painting. And his 10-point sideboard is adding 4 Hinds, which is gives him a little more flexibility there. His 20-point sideboard upgrades the AT on the Hinds to the AT9s. And then he's got the 3 BMP-1 Recce, and then some Acacias, I'm sorry. So some heavy artillery, some lovely stuff there to add another template. And then his 30-point sideboard, he's got 6 of the up AT to the AT9 Hinds, keeps the Acacia, adds some Hail, 3 of those, and then keeps the BMP Recce. So I think this is a very solid, very similar to what I would have taken, although I would have taken all 2s instead of the mix, but that's just me. I think it can get a lot done, but that's also because I'm very familiar with this type of force. The only thing in this is I think, Tom, you might be a little light on AA, but I think you might agree with that too.
I do. I'm definitely kind of regretting that I run less AA than I normally did, and it's mostly because in all the games through the Wolf Craigs and the more recent events that we've played, I pretty much wiped out the enemy air, and so I felt like all the opponents that I was playing against weren't going to bring air, and that's actually happened. The guys I normally used to seeing air really don't have a whole lot, but then a whole bunch of other people are now bringing air. So I think I skimped on the AA a little bit too much here, and I'm sure I
forgot to mention he does have the Grails in his infantry platoon, so he's got a few handheld Gaskin equivalents, but just I'm not sure that's going to work against the guys who brought 3 air units. But
no, all of my AA is 5+ firepower, so that's dicey, right? And that's if they're not pinned. So I at most will have 14 shots of firepower 5+ anti-air, and that's all I have all the way throughout. Now for helicopters, I will be more than happy to shoot a whole big salvo of AT3s at them, or AT4s, or whatever the case may be from the BMPs, even the additional penalty to hit. throwing 10 dice, it's certainly doable. So helicopters don't scare me as much, but those British Harriers, they come in, or the Tornadoes, and they bring that cluster bomb salvo AT-8. I hate that thing. That will really mess me up. So, and some folks have those. I'm kind of regretting not having. I normally at least have a unit of not the Gaskins, what is the other one? The tracked version one on the MTL Beach. Gopher, thank you. Yes, yeah. I normally have Gophers in there and Gaskins, and sometimes 2 units of Gaskins and Gophers, and then all the other missiles. So now my big thought was I knew I could have run a lot of BMP2s, but I thought that the BMP1 was going to be good enough because I was planning to see more lighter tanks than heavier tanks. And I really wanted the BMP3s as the reserve unit so they could come on the board shooting missiles and unleashing right off the bat. And I used to run T-80s as that main reserve unit. And they're great, but I guess every time they showed up, they just didn't get enough shots. They're in reserve, they finally arrive, and then great, now I'm shooting 4 shots, I'm only getting 2 hits. I'm like, I need something that can kill more than two Leopards a turn. And that's why I went with the BMP3s, because they can really put out a lot of firepower, and they can shoot those missiles coming in from reserve, since they can shoot the missiles on the move. So that was my whole thought with that. So we'll see how it goes. I do regret the ADA, but everything else I'm pretty happy with. And Aaron helped me, coached me a bit. I kept bouncing ideas off of him, so greatly appreciate your assistance there. And I think the biggest thing I could have done was not taking the Hind upgrade at the 20, and the AT upgrade. I could have used those points for more ADA. Because I think the regular Hind is probably just good enough. I didn't really think I needed the AT-9 missils. So there we go. We'll see how it works out. I'm expecting to be in the bottom 3 spots. so as I did, but I tell you, there's some missions. If I get the luck, there's some missions that this force I think is almost an auto win. Maybe some of the defensive ones, perhaps. But because there's just so much infantry and they're so well armed, but unless you have the artillery to blast them out, and then the other ones are some of the maneuver type ones, like counterattack, where you have that open area. And I mean the whole thing with these BMPs is the BMP1 has a 28-inch cross-country dash move, so that's why I have BMP1 recon, so I can really move fast. And some of these things, especially some of these newer missions, I think that the BMPs will be quite the versatile tool. We'll see how it plays out. But that's enough on me. So let's go to the number 3 seed there, Aaron.
This one's on you, Tom. It's your turn.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. I talked so much about myself, I thought it was your turn.
That's fine.
Okay, so John Meyer, the only guy from Ohio, and he's running one of these Israeli mech forces that's also supplemented by West Germans. People get fixated on that combo. It's good. They're both good units, but it just interests me that the go-to for the Israelis is West Germans. Why not Brits? Or whatever. Just throwing that out there. I'm not exactly sure. I guess it's the Gepards, but the British have the Marksmen, so I don't know how that works out. So anyways, the Israelis, John, he's got the 2 mech platoons, full up mech, 3 Magach 6s. Which is what their M60 variant that's upgraded, 81 millimeter mortar tracks, some Milan, and then he's got his West Germans in, which is his Milan units, his Martyr units, 4 Leopard 1s, 3 mortar platoons, and 4 Gepards, and then his Lukes. So that's his core 70 points, 2 formations in there. Then at 10 points, he adds in M106 artillery, and then Perez. Got to have the Perez if you're playing Israelis, right? Then at 20 points, he keeps those, and he adds some red-eye teams and some Skyhawks, so some ADA and some air. And then at 30 points, he has 3 Merkavas. So it's not until then he gets to the heavy Merkava 2s, 2 Perez, and then 2 red-eye teams. So interesting force. I've played him also. I remember, but he had the U.S. allies when I played him instead of the West German allies. He had the RDF tanks and some other stuff, so he's apparently switched and gone to the West Germans. And but other than that, fairly similar force to what I've seen him play in the past. So he's good with it, so he'll do well. So you got a couple of issues point-wise there, right? Oh, that's right. Right, we're just trying to determine what's up. And what is the P13? Oh, okay, page 13, FM 101. That's what that means. So, anyways, good defending force. The Perez can be a pain taking out your key assets, but until he gets to the 30-point sideboard, can he really attack? I don't have any faith in the upgraded M60s that they have, the Magog 6s, and there's only 3 of them. And then when the Perez show up, there's only 3 of those, which is one of the things that I don't like about the Israeli forces in general, is that their tanks are always 3 tank platoons. So do you see any other issues or concerns with his force there, Aaron?
I think it's pretty balanced. Like I said, I think he can defend and maneuver, but I agree. His 30-point is probably where he's going to have to attack, and I think he's a really good player. And he also has like you said, how John might have facial hair. John Holland. John Myers recently gotten out of the service, and he has a fine beard. He definitely was showing that off at the Huntsville tournament when we were playing last weekend. But no, I think it's going to be tough. I think his solid infantry, and he's probably going to have to counterpunch with it. And there's a lot of lists that are going to have to counterpunch. And I think the rounds are a little bit longer. I think you said they were 2 hours and 45 minutes. I still have a little bit more time, but I don't. He doesn't have real heavy artillery. He's got a little bit of it, like a couple light tubes, essentially. I guess he's got a lot of light artillery, so he might have enough there. But the Magoks are actually M48 upgrades. I looked into those. Are actually what I bought for my South Koreans, because the South Koreans that I run my US as, they don't have M60s. They have like the M48 K5s, which are super upgraded. So I actually bought the Magok models to use as my M60 clones for them. But no, it's interesting. It's amazing to me that the M48s are still out there too. But I think it's a very solid force, and he's a very solid player. So I think he'll do pretty well. But I'm not sure he can attack real well is my only concern. And then the red thing you were going to forward to Joe there, but that's minor.
Yeah, yeah, no big deal.
But
yeah, good deal. Yeah, he's getting quite the what is it, that Jeremiah Johnson? You know, the trapper beard, right? It's really,
no, it's a very fine beard. He won best beard in the Alabama tournament for sure.
Right. But, excellent. I'm jealous. Even though I am allowed to, I don't have the facial hair to support that structure.
Yeah, no, it's magnificent. But going on to more relevant stuff. Our number 1 seed coming in from the season is John Cederberg from Minnesota, and he is the last Warsaw Pact player in here, and he is running the Soviet motor rifles. He is bringing 2 mid-size BTR plus the 2 ATGMs and the tandem charge warhead upgrade on the RPG-7s, a short BTR with the 2 ATGM upgrades, and then also with the upgraded armor. Or warheads, and then he is the only player who's bringing the T-80s, and he's got 3 T-80s in his core formation. And to back that up, he's got the lovely little Shilka. He's got 4 of those. His first 10-point sideboard is adding in some artillery. So he's got some Carnations with a BMP Observer, and then a BMP-1 Recce formation there to give him some spearhead. And then in his 20 points, he's still got the Carnations for BMP-1 Recce, and then he's replaced it or added in 6 of the new T-55AM, the missile T-55s, which is an interesting choice. And then his last one is kind of upgrading that as well. So he's still got 3 Carnations, the OP, the 4 BMP-1 Recce. He's added in some Gaskins, and he's upped the missile T-55s to 10 of them, so the full 10-man platoon. And John is an excellent player, and I know he's played this a lot. And the only real concern is he's like the T-80s. The format really makes it tough to take the heavy tanks, and he's got a lot riding on those 3 T-80s when he has to attack. So it'll be interesting to see if he can pull it off. But he's a real good player, so I'm sure he's got a plan. But
well, and he's generally these events where he's done really well at, he has played, whether it be Flames of War or Team Yankee, it's been all defend all the time. And so now he's going to have to push out and get out some holes and get moving. And he's the only BTR 60 player. He's the only BTR 60s in all the Masters. All other transports are tracked. And So that's notable. And then did you say you had 4 T80s? I thought it was 3 T80s.
Just 3. It's just 3.
Okay,
I might have said 4,
yeah.
but it's only 3.
Yeah. Well, that really concerns me. I mean, T80s are great. I really enjoyed playing them. They're quite the bullies to send in and try to push infantry off. But we had a saying that the reason you have 4 tanks and a tank platoon is so that when one drops for maintenance, you have 3. So you got to have 4 to make 3 on the objective, right? And here we got 3, and I'm just worried, man, just 1 or 2 hits, and this guy's checking morale, and I just worried there's enough TOW2s and HOTS and air attacks and other stuff that's going to be really hard to protect those T80s all the way through. So if they're going to do something, they'd better do it quick, and before they get flanked by leopards and get hammered by all the other heavy anti-tank missile stuff flying around. So we'll see how it works out. But John's he is the #1 overall seed for the entire year. He has won a lot of events. And the next and last player we have is not ranked this year, but he gets to come in because he was the winner last year of the Team Yankee Masters. And that's Chris Jackson. I think he's only played like 2 tournaments this year for Team Yankee. He didn't have to put any effort into it. He just focused on Flames of War because he already had a shoe-in. And Chris is running a U.S. Combined Arms team, and I've never seen this before, but he's running the RDF LT U.S. light tank unit, backed up by the light motor infantry. I like that unit. He's got 4 M1s. So he does have some actual heavy tanks, but they're not the upgraded M1s. I would have liked to see the IPs in there. He does have some scouts with the tow launcher and the Humvee 50 cal combination. So he does, and that's his base force. 1 infantry platoon, 1 scout platoon, no artillery, and no ADA in his base force. And then when he goes to 10-point sideboard, he adds an M113 mech unit and 4 stingers, and so he adds the ADA. And it's not till he gets to the 20-point sideboard that he gets artillery. And then he adds 2 M109 units. He might have had minelets with his. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, is that with W/M with mines? Okay, check. I think we're tracking. And he has some Stinger units in there as well. So and then at 30 points, and he throws all that stuff away and takes an entire West German force with some mech guys, which again, as we mentioned earlier, they're not kind of super small platoons, but they got some Milans, they got some mortars, some Gepards, some Lukes and Recce. So he has a little more AA and a little bit more recon. But man, that whole evolution going from totally different 10-point to 20-point to 30-point sideboard, and I kind of think that at the high level, he's got to attack against one of these big, a Cedarburg list or my list or one of these big Iraqi lists with a ton of infantry. He's going to need more templates, and when it comes to the Russians, the Soviets, he's not going to be able to plow. Did any Soviet player not take the upgraded RPG missile or RPG rocket?
I think everybody. The Afghansi Alex did not, but I don't. He's the only one. He's got so many lines. I don't think he was worried about it. They can get it in the new book. Okay. So good force. The core though has a hard time moving out once the M1s go. It's it's just actually though they're not even part of the core. They're a support, but they're in his main thing. So he is pretty limited when those RDF tanks get out and get whacked. Then there's just the headquarters, 2 platoons, and then the scout or the scouts will be part of the formation. No, it's the infantry, so it's just the RDF and the infantry is his formation, and I think that is a weakness here because those RDF tanks you have to roll 6s, but there's only you got to kill 6 of them, or depending on how it is, it's really not that hard to kill an RDF with the 4-2-1 armor pattern, and I like the things, but if the Iranians and Soviets, you're rolling enough dice, you're going to kill 1 or 2 every time you shoot at them. Yeah. So
let alone the infantry in there. Yeah,
he's going to have to really protect those units because the West Germans, it's a lot harder to break those, but you just have to kill the 10 RDFs, and it's not even all 10 you have to kill. You just have to force them checking. But I think it's going to be rough. Well, I like the RDFs in a defensive, but you can't attack with them at all. Once you start moving them, it doesn't work. So he's got a lot on those M1s.
Well, he does, but I've seen him do a lot with just 1 unit of M1s. He is very good at just getting the most out of that 1 unit. So if they stay alive, he's a contender. But if a bunch of M10s or Heinz come in and whack him, then sad face. It's pretty much game over at that point. So we'll see how it goes. So I know what your favorite force was. Do you have any dare to think who's going to go all the way with this, or is that just way too hard to determine?
I think it is hard. I have a favorite NATO, and that's just barely Andrew Hofson edging out Chris Fretz. I think those are the most solid, but that's also I'm more familiar with both of those forces. I think John Meyer is right up there too for the NATO, because I think he has a very thing, but I think he's going to have a little more trouble attacking because he doesn't have as many tanks, whereas both Chris and Andrew have got full tank companies to push out with. My favorite pact, as Tom was alluding to, is actually Tom. I really think that's a really balanced force that he took, and it's not that I'm biased because I helped him tweak it a little bit, but I think it's really, really up there, followed by John Cederberg, but I think Tom's is just a little more balanced and can take some losses. There's no one key thing in Tom's army, unlike the T-80s up there in the BTRs. And I also do favor BMPs over BTRs, but that's just personal. I'm pulling for Charlie as my favorite tanker. I don't think he's going to have a great time because I think T-62s just die, but I'm wishing him well.
He will have a great time. He will have a great time. There's no doubt about that. He'll enjoy himself, but how well the list does is to be determined. So. And
then I've got a couple dark horses, which I don't know either of these gentlemen, but I really like Alex's call to go with the Afghansy, and he also the T-62 amps doesn't hurt that, but I think he's going to have a tough time because that is a bit more of a finesse, and some of these lists have plenty of AA for him. But if he doesn't, he could really, really hurt some people's stays. He could ruin some people's days depending on the tables and then the matchups. And then also Ryan's. I really like Ryan's Iraqi mech. I think that's a very solid force, and that's probably actually the closest to something I'd take. But I think it's a very well balanced with lots of air, lots of templates. It's got pretty much everything I think you need, and there's lots of it because it's Iraqi. So
well, I'm set with my Soviets, but I think next year. I think the Iraqi cards are going to get opened up and going to be employed. So not doing a painting an Iraqi force per se, but my multi-purposed, multifunctional big green horde shall be used in that role, and with a few minor additions. So I'm looking forward to trying an Iraqi formation, if you will. So
that's good stuff.
Yeah, this it's going to go back and forth, and I would say that even though I don't quite get Chris Jackson's force, I just know he's really, really good at maneuvering one unit of the M1. So if he can keep those alive, I think he'll be up there. John, a great player, like his force too, and he's got the 3 T-80s, same kind of thing. If you keep those 3 T-80s alive, I think he'll be up there. But I think the ones that just can continue to absorb the blows and keep coming are going to be those Iraqi forces, and so I think they're going to. And I wonder how many draws we're going to have. I mean, we do have longer time periods, so
I think you're going to get some for sure.
Yeah.
There's too many too many infantry armies out there that you're going to get it. I think there's going to have some people are just going to have trouble attacking, and that's before you throw in tables, because we're talking here in a vacuum all these lists, but we all know that tables and missions apply a lot to this stuff. So there's a lot of luck and skill in that too.
And we do know that the Fallujah table, the massive desert city in the middle of the board table, is going to be used at this tournament. So I guess will there be eight tables at least, maybe 9, and so you'll play on 6 of them. So pretty much everybody needs to be prepared to be going to downtown Fallujah. So that could hurt some of these tank heavy forces. Another thing we hadn't talked about earlier, because there could just be just a massive urban complex in the center of the board in some of these missions. Now the objectives may be outside that complex, but that's to be determined. Imagine something like a no retreat or dogfight or one of these things where you got to attack on a narrow frontage and it's mostly buildings and mostly occupied by infantry. It could be a little tough for some forces. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing, these are all good friends. The only guy I'm going to be missing there is you, Aaron. I wish you could be at this thing.
Well, I will be watching the stream and living vicariously through others as happens right now in these times.
Well, great. Well, let's. Any other comments overall? I think you kind of, as we went along, kind of covered the whole, ratios of, the noting the only handful of pure tank forces, and noting the deficiencies in ADA artillery. So I think we pretty much covered that. The only thing we didn't really cover was, I guess you categorize them as 12 NATO.
There were Iraqis technically fit as NATO. So
yeah.
Now that was kind of something that was kind of interesting to me, is that the most common force was actually West German tied with the U.S. I had it backwards, so I had West German a little ahead. But that's really surprising to me, because at least here in the Southeast, the U.S. doesn't tend to do real well, and it's just interesting to me that there's so many U.S. armies in here. And the West Germans don't do real well either, as pure West Germans. So it's just kind of interesting to me that those two are, there's 6 West Germans and 6 U.S., and then the next highest is Soviet, and followed by Iraqi. So it's just kind of interesting to see that breakdown to me. I'll see if I'm missing something. I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. But,
what surprised me was there's no Warsaw Pact. There's no Poles, Czech, or East German. So it's either Soviet or, to me, Soviet light, the Iraqis. So that's it for the centralized command kind of forces. So none of those other now that will probably change in the future, but for now it seems like there was a big surge. Everybody was running East Germans and not Soviets, and now the East Germans have kind of disappeared. And but we'll see when they come back, when they get some upgrades from the next Warsaw Pact boat. They'll probably come back out again. All right, man. Any other final observations or thoughts?
We've pretty much covered it. The BMP-1 was the most common infantry fighting vehicle, and the Leo-1 was the most common tank. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but not real as unsuspected there either. But it's good stuff.
Welcome to the 1960s. We're ready for Checkpoint Charlie. we're largely playing it already with a couple of minor variations. So anyways, well, Aaron, I greatly appreciate your in-depth thoughts and analysis. I appreciate you doing this breakdown spreadsheet that we got to use and kind of go through. I'm glad that you'll have an opportunity to observe. Wish you'd be there. But I will give due credit for any ones I do pull to you. So
that's all on you.
Yeah.
I will not. Feel free to blame me for your poor list. The table's all your end of the deal.
It's Well, I really only had 2 ways: BMPs or T-72s, and T-72s are not where it's at. So really, that made it one choice: BMPs, and just a question what types and how I was going to work stuff into them. So it'll be a good event, and folks, there's a lot more tournaments coming on. We don't have anybody from the West Coast. We don't have anybody from Texas, right, in this event. So everybody is, east of the Mississippi, and that's largely due to the fact that COVID had severely reduced the amount of tournament play people got, and the point levels were not that high to get in, and that's how I got in. And my last tournament, I was like, I'll be close, but maybe I just this one last one to get one more push to make sure I get over the board. So I was just looking to make sure I was, 15th or something, and that actually pushed me up to 4th place. And I was like, what, 4th? How the hell did I get up there? So anyways, next year probably a little tighter competition for getting in. Probably have a lot more force options with the next book we're going to get is going to be the Warsaw Pact redo. So I think that's going to bring some of them back, and so we'll see how things roll around for next year. Okay, man. Well, I think that's enough of this segment. And Aaron, thanks again for joining us and for being willing to do this segment twice, because that's essentially a redo from the previous time.
It's my pleasure. So, all good, Tom. It was fun anytime. And don't throw your T-72s out yet. I'll just say that right now.
Okay. All right. We can talk offline about that later.
Yep.
Okay, good deal. All right, well, let's take a break, and then we'll come back. And Aaron will still be with us, and we will go into the rules Ed forgot, Tom butchered, and Aaron fixed, and then follow that with the upcoming events. So thanks for hanging with us, folks. See you in a few.
Target! Ceasefire! board is lame. Hard Knocks Games is awesome. You can get board games, trading card games, role-playing games, hobby supplies and tools, Gundam, Warhammer, and more. Find us on Facebook or hardknocksgames.com or visit us on the Dixie Highway.
Welcome back from the break. I hope you enjoyed that Team Yankee Masters breakdown. And now we're going to go to our most popular segment, Rules. Ed forgot, and we had to expand it to Ed. Rules Ed forgot, Tom butchered, and now we're adding that Aaron fixed. So what rules do we have to look at today? I've got two. Aaron, do you have any from your events that you want to cover?
I do have a couple things that I was more like Ed this time.
Okay.
No,
How about Ed? You
yeah,
got?
well, I forgot mine, but I'm maybe what you guys say will make it ring a bell. But Brian Coach has taught me something, and I can't remember what it is. But maybe it's something.
I'll start off. And
Okay.
one of them I saw in the D-Day +6 event we ran. And this was not, I was running the event, so I didn't mess it up. Actually, I did mess it up because I was called over to the table to make a TO ruling, and I made the incorrect one, but then I went and looked at the book and like, oh no, this is how it's done. And the scenario was that you had Joe Lewis and Jim McKinney playing in the last round. So these are two very experienced, Flames of War Masters level players. And the question was, when they shoot at a unit, does it force the headquarters to join the unit? Remember that used to happen in version 3? You could force the headquarters to join, but the shooter can't force anything to shoot anymore. The decision to bleed over to the headquarters unit, and actually it cannot bleed over the headquarters unit. If the enemy is targeting your line unit and your headquarters is nearby, you can't choose to have the line unit join the headquarters. But if he targets the headquarters, you can choose to have the headquarters swap hits with the line unit. So I had to look that up, and it was the same for both Flames of War and Team Yankee. I confirmed that. So if you're trying to hit the commander and a unit together, target the commander first, the formation commander, or independent teams. It works the same for them too, like an OP or something, because then the shots will go from the OP, and then but the guy who's shooting doesn't get to decide that. So if you're shooting at my BMP OP and I have a BMP unit sitting right next to it, and you're like, I shot that BMP and I hit it like 8 times with a bunch of Milans, so 7 shots carry over to the BMP adjacent unit. That's not correct, not unless I choose to make that happen. Like I want to keep the BMP alive, which I might do because BMP is pretty important. The OP is pretty important. So that's just something to keep mindful of. And I always love it when I see high caliber players mess up the rules, because I want newer players not to be intimidated and question things when they think something's wrong, because just because somebody's ranked whatever or going to Masters doesn't mean they always get it right. I'm certainly living proof of that. So that was my first one. So what was your first one there, Aaron?
It was something actually Jonathan Meyer pointed out to me, and it's similar to what you're saying. It's me carrying over rules from previous editions, because I've been playing since way back in first. And it used to be that trees and other similar area of terrain type effects like completely block line of sight. But now in 4th edition, it just limits your line of sight, so you can no longer see but just 6 inches. So it used to be if you had like a woods that was 3 inches wide, you couldn't shoot through it. But now, as long as you're within 6 inches of your target, you can actually still target through a woods. It's just like the smoke effect is. And go ahead.
Can you go all the way through the woods? I know you can see 6 inches
can.
into the woods, so you can see and out of the woods up to 6 inches.
Yeah, and it's through too. It's not even just into. It can be completely through. So if neither team is in the woods, you can see 6 inches through a woods. And that's
Wow,
a big
I didn't
change
know
in
that.
4th edition.
That's a big change. I didn't know that either.
Jonathan,
Wow.
being a new player, is why I pointed that out, and that was in that furious dogfight we had in an objective where his whole army got on top of my little guys, and that's a downside of being an older player, like you said, and that's why you're absolutely correct. If you think something's wrong, you should ask, and I'm very open about that at the tables. If you think I'm doing something wrong, please ask, because I do miss up rules from between the different editions sometimes.
Well, I knew you could see 6 inches into the woods. No
right.
deal that. I didn't. And it says over 6
I thought you
is
couldn't
blocked.
see through it, yeah, no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's over 6 inches, yes. But if you're within 6 inches of each other, you can shoot through the woods.
So
Wow.
basically, it's taking into account that the woods are not that big to begin with then.
Mm-hmm.
And
So it
Yeah,
says
well, they're not
it
solid
behaves
walls.
exactly like smoke does now. The new smoke in version 4, how you can still see into or through smoke, but it's only a max total distance of 6 inches that you can see through.
Right.
Like you have to be within 6 inches of your target. So it's the same. So it's consistent with how smoke is nowadays, which is good.
Okay.
But it is a
Yeah.
big change for older edition players.
And that's for
Like,
both
we had to
Flames of
look
War
that up.
and Team Yankee?
I'm not sure
Well,
on Team
definitely Team
Yankee, but I'd assume so.
Yeah, I'm looking at the book right now for Team Yankee, and it says line of sight through tall terrain. Line of sight to a target. Team is blocked if it is more than 2 inches through tall terrain, unless the range is 6 inches or less. So by the
There you go.
rules
There it
as
is.
written, if you're under 6 inches, woods don't block terrain, line of sight. So, wow. I mean, that's actually what it says. Now that you would never have read that being an older player, you mentally would have skipped right over that, and you would think, no, you can never shoot completely through wood lines. So what I'm thinking about is these new Battlefront tree lines. Have you seen these things? They're like little rows of trees. They're not like full wide forests. So that would be an example of this. So if you're 3 inches away and the bad guys are 3 inches away on the other side of it, then you're within 6 inches of each other. It's like those trees. I guess there'd still be concealment, right there, Aaron?
It would still be concealed.
But yes, but you still have line of sight. So, wow, that's kind of mind blowing. Cool. All right. Well, there. I've been educated. Mission accomplished. So
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'll get to my. Yeah. All right. That's a good deal. So let's. I'll go to my second one, and I don't have the answer for this. So Joe Lewis on Wednesday night. This was Wednesday night last week. I was watching the recording this weekend, and. He was looking into the minelet issues, so this only applies to Team Yankee because there's no minelets in Flames of War. But in Team Yankee, it's possible for you to range in and put mines right on top of an enemy unit. And traditionally, in the past, we had, certainly I did, I know many other people did. Well, if you put mines on top of me, great. I'll just tell my infantry to clear it next turn. If they're already out, or if I have mine clearing devices, I'll just give the order to lift them. And it seems like that's how it should work, but Joe Lewis apparently sent an email off to Phil, so this is all completely unofficial, but I will say this is how it's being played at Masters, and that's next weekend, and that's important because there's a lot of people with minelets. Did you see that in the artillery? A lot of people took the minelet upgrade. So what this means is that, according to Phil, so even in the enemy's turn, let's say I got some T-80s running around, and they drop minelets on the T-80s. And let's say the T-80s had mine plows. I don't know if they can have mine plows, but let's say they did. They cannot immediately clear those mines in their next turn. They have to, quote, move, even if they're stationary, and within the minefield, take that risk of blowing up, and then the following turn they can do it. So what if they stayed stationary? They could never attempt to clear. I mean, it seems kind of like an odd ruling to me. It seems to me you should just be smarter and put the mines in front of the tanks, not try to hit them when they're moving around. But that's how Phil ruled it, and I'm not so sure I agree with that. And Joe said he didn't think he agreed with it, the whole concept of it. But then it just begs further questions. So let's say you drop minelets on my BMPs. I have BMPs and you drop minelets on them. Great, they're now on a mine. Then let's say subsequently you shoot at them with some tanks or missiles or something, and you blow a few BMPs up, and then the infantry survives and dismounts. So question number one is, does the dismount cause a mine check? Is that a quote movement? Because it's very explicit that when they dismount, they have to dismount in contact with the vehicle on the far side of whatever killed them. So you don't get to move them 4 inches or 6 inches or whatever. They actually are in contact with the burning hull when they get down. And so does that count as a move? And so should they check to blow up on the mine? And if they do check to blow up on the mine, does that mean that they're free to clear the minefield next turn? Do they live? So it just opens up a whole other layer of questions for me that I don't have the answers for. So what do you think about those, Ed and Aaron? Does that make sense, or is this going to be more lessons from the front addendum coming up?
I think it should be. Knowing how the mines really work, artillery fast cam, which is basically what you guys are calling minelets and stuff. and then you get the airdrop GBUs there. I mean, it's going to have an impact on the thing, whatever it lands upon. And then, of course, if you're dismounting infantry off of a BMP that's in a minefield, you would think they would have to immediately go into that stance. So I think it needs further official clarification needs to be published.
Yeah, well, I hope he does put it in lessons from the front, but I just don't like the idea that, and what if you don't move? So let's say, I mean, so you have to move, and I guess you could count as moving and shooting, so unlike the next turn, whereas if you clear the mine, you don't get to do anything. But it's just kind of odd. It's just a weird scenario. So go ahead, Aaron.
I think you're right. I think we'll definitely, Phil needs to put this in lessons from the front, or whoever's updating lessons from the front, rather than just having it in an email or a random Facebook post. That's one of the things that I miss about the old website, where all this would have been clear and you could reference the post. And it's really hard to find things on Facebook sometimes with how much goes through there. But I'm not sure that this ruling really adds anything to the game except adding more complexity that just leads to more questions. And I think your questions are good, and it doesn't really matter what we say. It's what Joe decides to do for next weekend, and then what Phil decides to rule next time. Personally, I think you should be able to. You are in the minefields. You should just be able to clear them, because that keeps the game moving, and it's not one of these little niche cases. And I think for one, if it doesn't go that way, I think minelets need to cost more than 1 point.
If you have your infantry and your transports, they have the dismount anyways, and I would say dismounting would cause a check on mines, and so
I agree with that.
And then the following turn they could clear them. So it's still a huge hindrance, But the only ones that automatically get out of jail free card is the tanks and mine plows. But now, if I'm looking at this new ruling and how it works, and like crap, I got to sit there for a whole damn turn. And then take a chance of hitting a mine anyways before I can even use my mine plow in the following turn. It's like having to deal with it twice, in my opinion. So I'm like, screw mine plows. Why would I take them if they're that hard to use against minelets?
Well, they keep in mind, that's what they were designed to do, to slow you down. They're not designed to the odds are of them doing anything in a major way to a whole unit. It's not going to happen. But the whole idea for minelets are to either slow you down or redirect you anyway. So I think there is some support there for the extra turn there, because that's what they were designed to do, slow you down.
Well,
I'd
be happy to
you could
hear
still
how it
have
works
that,
out.
though. You could still have that, though, if you do like you said earlier, Tom, and just put the minefields in front of what you're targeting rather than on top of them. So it's still doing the slowing down, and it simplifies and keeps stuff out.
And
it's also very easy to drive around them. So that's
true.
Unless it's constrained terrain, which is where mine should be used to begin with. They should be tied in with terrain. So tied in with buildings and some other stuff, and then now you really have a lot to go around. So yeah, I think he has to get into
with BMPs, issue. Man, they're going to run all around you. I mean, you're not going to.
Yeah.
They can avoid it. Yeah. They move so fast.
Well, if BMPs get dropped in a minefield, they don't have mine clearing devices, so they can't lift it. So their infantry has to get out. So that does, and they have to risk blowing up, and they clearly can't clear them until the next turn. So the infantry were already covered, unless you shoot at the BMPs after you drop the minelets and force them to dismount in the shooter shooting phase, or the enemy shooting phase. Then they've already taken a mine check, perhaps, or maybe they don't take a mine check, and then they're already in the minefield, so they could immediately lift them in the following turn. So I'm like, how does it work where it takes a whole other turn for the tanks, but for the infantry, if they get dismounted by fire, then they already have gone through all that jazz and can now do it the next turn. So it's kind of like the disconnect for me, and I just want to see a little bit more coherency in it, a little bit more explanation perhaps. So anyways, well, enough from that, because we don't know the answer. We'll have to see what the mighty Phil comes up with and what the next lessons from the front has. So did you have a second issue there, Aaron?
Yeah, it's another one of those things that I just never picked up of, and it's our friend Brian, who Ed just mentioned earlier, that pointed this out in our game. And that's that if you are taking cover on like a hill, so if you're half covered by a hill, so you get the benefits of the concealment, it also counts as bulletproof cover. And I've never realized that. And I guess I just haven't read the rules closely enough that if you have infantry up on a hill and they're in concealment from the hill, like we go hull down with tanks, They get bulletproof cover from direct fire for that, and I never knew that. So
makes sense.
It makes hills even more important than they are already with the ignoring small terrain, which is another thing I learned in the last 2 years or so, year or so. That fields are a lot less important when there's hills on the table.
Right.
Just makes taking those hills, which I guess is historical. You want the high ground for various reasons.
Well, it makes sense that hold down for infantry is bulletproof cover, right? I mean, they're laying low on the crest and they're just barely poking over the top of their heads and their rifles and their sights. So, makes sense to me that they're a much smaller target and much more survivable. So yeah, it's I don't generally think about that when I'm playing. I'm pretty sure I just ignore it. But normally I'm dug in with infantry. They don't move around a whole lot. But it'd be nice to know that you could move up on a hill. And I'm thinking maybe like blitz up with a Milan or something, and then shoot down and still be concealed and bulletproof cover. That'd be kind of cool. Cool. Ed, do you have any that triggered for you?
No, but Brian is the one who told me something, and I can't remember. I just.
That's what we say. Rules I forgot.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. We addressed 4 rules. One of which was mind blowing to me. One of which I think is due out, and then the bulletproof cover on the hill is just awesome. I mean, that's something to think about, particularly running infantry lists. If you can get up on a hill. Mm-hmm. But typically, I just think that we're mostly, I think that's very situational. Yeah. I think in most cases you're already dug in if you're defending and dug in, gone to ground, and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. So really, I'm thinking if infantry's trying to push up on a position that's overwatching an objective, and as they get ready to come into assault, maybe something like that might be useful. But I guess one reason it has never occurred to me is because there's so many rare instances where I'm actually pushing infantry up on a crest for any given reason. Usually they're going through the woods and into the buildings.
Yeah, that rule would have helped me this weekend, as I placed I moved forward my heavy machine guns up to the crest of the hill, and I did not get the benefit of the bulletproof cover.
Yeah. All right, so there you go.
They lived, though, but I got lucky. I lost 2 of the 4 that I had.
All right, well, sounds cool. Well, let's go ahead and move into upcoming events. So, Ed, why don't you go ahead and Aaron, I know you have to add one in here. I'm missing the July event for the list that I have, but why don't you just run down the roster there for us there, Ed?
Okay, I'm scooting to it right now.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'll cover the first one until you get on board. So June 26th, we've already covered. Okay, there you go. Take it over.
All right, yeah, that's the one we're going to be doing this weekend. So the Flames of War Mid-War 185 and 73 round thing in Indianapolis at Family Time Games. And then we got your Masters tournament there, same place. Let's see, we got a lot of things going on the 26th. So we got you got P-Town Beatdown. It's they're Plymouth, Portsmouth, Virginia. I haven't heard that. That's pretty cool. But it's a mid-war 70-point 3-round tournament. Oh well, good. I'm glad to see mid-war starting to make its heads up there.
Level 2.
All right, very good. Yeah. P-Town Beatdown. That's good. All right, so June 26th and 27th, the 2-dayer here. There's the Masters we just finished spending time talking about there in Indianapolis. July 3rd, we got at Dreamer's Vault, a mid-war in Minneapolis there. And it is a 100-point mid-war. All right, so good points there.
And before we move off of July, Ed, let Aaron. There's a July event in Greenville, South Carolina that I know Aaron knows about.
That's the one I'm planning on going to also.
Oh, good. So I'll see you there too, Ed. July 17th, Borderlands Comics and Games in Greenville, South Carolina is having a 105 Late War open, and they're actually using a custom mission pack. And it uses the, I'm not sure if it's a variant or the actual released Vanguard mission from the new pack, and interesting, kind of like the old Domination I-95 games called Clash, and then a fighting withdrawal / rearguard combo. So Ed, I really suggest you read those missions closely, which are up on the event post on Facebook. But there are people, and I know a decent number of us are coming up from Atlanta, and I see Ed's already coming down from
Nice.
they put a good show. It's a nice store. They have a lot of older stuff, so if you're looking for older blisters, they're more than happy to ship it to you. But that's where all my Polish early war army's been coming from over the years. But
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make it
I also
out.
got
If you
one
need
for
more Polish
August.
Stuff. I still got a lot of blisters of Polish stuff that is unbuilt. So let me know.
that's the problem with mine too. I need an early war rule set to be motivated to paint them up. But there's also one in August I know you're missing, which I can mention after the next one here.
Okay.
But,
All right.
You wanna pick it up, Ed?
Well, yeah. Go ahead. Do the August one.
Okay, so on the list here, we've got August 14th. Gold Mine Games in Richmond, Texas is having a Team Yankee 105. So that's the another start for the Team Yankee stuff. And the next weekend is one I'm surprised you guys don't have on here because I think you both said you want to go, is NashCon. So NashCon 2021 is in August. It's the 20th and 21st, and there is going to be a late war. I don't remember the exact points. It's either 100 or 105, and that's, I think, on Friday. And then Saturday, they're having a de-escalation, or I think it's an escalation, actually, mid-war event. And I don't know the points off the top of my head for that. And I might have flipped the days, but the NashCon website has both of those, and I actually signed up for those yesterday. So if you guys are coming down one of those days, I'll probably see you guys there, too. And that's the 20th and 21st, the Friday and Saturday of August there.
Okay.
Very cool.
Let me write that down.
Yep, I get 21st and 20th and 21st NashCon. I'll fill in the details on it here too for the next podcast. I was actually typing them in. And what was the Greenville event in July?
What was July 17th.
Borderlands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
July 17th. It's the
Borderlands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm just putting it in here for next time.
Okay.
Very good. All right, so then I'll pick up the next one. Moving out west, all the way west to Olympia, Washington, and Enfilade, a big, I think that's the HMGS Pacific Northwest, their annual convention, and they're doing a 3-round 85-pointer, and so you can check out www.ordofanaticus.com and go there and look up for the data on their Flames of War events. So good to see that coming out to the West Coast. And then we have the Gen Con events in September 16th, 17th, and 18th. And that's Able Company running 3 different events. They're going to do a mid-war event on the 16th. I think that's a Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. And then that's 3 rounds, 100 points. And then on the 17th, they do Team Yankee, 3 rounds, 100 points. I believe that's a Friday. And then the Saturday, the 16th, they do a late war, 100 points, 3 rounds. So pretty good the chance to get in a bunch of events if you get up there. Pretty pricey, though, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the things always. I've never been yet.
You got to get the normal Gen Con badge and then the tournament fees on top. And I think they aren't going to be as big as they normally are. So if you're interested in those, you definitely should get your badge and make sure you get your tickets ASAP. Because I think they're only about 20-person events this year because the Gen Con in general is just reduced to occupancy.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I've just as close as we are. I've never just been to Gen Con. It just seems such like a pricey event. Although Able Company is such a great group, and they having a chance to do several days of good gaming with them is just would definitely be worth it. So I need to try to push to do that. So September, rolling into the end of the Flames of War season, we have Huracan in Orlando, Florida. And they have a Saturday, 24th September, Team Yankee, 100 points, and the 25th September, Late War, Flames of War, 100 points. And I really love seeing all these like DICON and NashCon and Gen, all of these conventions that have multiple events and really push the limit on the periods, if you will. It gives you a good chance. We just need to get early war in the mix, right? Just please Battlefront. Let's get early war going, or we just take it upon ourselves and we work with other clubs and we come up with some suitable early war lists and we just start running events. I think that's where we may have to end up going here in the near future. All right, so we miss anything for upcoming events?
Not to my knowledge now. I'm sure we have.
Any final thoughts on? I know COVID is. I mean, we're not wearing masks next week in Indianapolis. Kentucky is mask free. Imagine I saw my sister and her kids and my dad were in the Smithsonian today, and they're all masked up there. So I imagine that So I guess we're not totally out of the woods yet, but I guess things are getting fairly better across the board. At least as far as gaming, there's been a convention. There's been DICON, right? And they went and they played multiple events there. There's more conventions coming up, so it's just nice to have a little bit more return to normalcy here. So that's my big observation about going forward. Any thoughts or comments from you guys?
Keep your fingers crossed because the Delta variant is starting to pick up.
You had to bring that up, man.
No, I'm
Well,
not.
you just got to take
Tonight.
care of yourself and manage your risk and take care of your families. I mean,
Yeah. Wash your hands. Don't poke your
enjoy-
eyeballs.
enjoy the little things.
Keep your
Like-
fingers out of your nose. Yeah, those kind of things.
And remember, you're
I'm
playing with
jealous.
little toy soldiers.
Yeah, right. That's right. We're grown men playing with little toy soldiers, so don't act like an imbecile or a juvenile.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Definitely, represent the hobby. Getting out there, especially with all this convention gaming. You'll have other people playing other games, watching what's going on. So, make a good representation and try to make an event that other people would be interested to join in the future. I think that would be my word of advice going forward. Well, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, Aaron, thanks so much for joining us for this whole podcast. I know it's a grueling event, and for those who are out there, we had to redo the middle section, so due to somebody forgetting to hit the record button, and it was not Ed. So we put a lot of effort into making this podcast to you, and if you like what you hear or you don't like what you hear, give us some feedback at podcast@BattleVault.com. That's podcast@BattleVault.com. Or you can find us on the No Dice, No Glory forums. You can drop a post in there, and there's a podcast section if you want to add something there. And there's an event section if you want to add something there. Or and please, like the Enfilade event coming up, that was sent to me by email. So thanks for. I'm not exactly sure the name of the person who sent it. It was like J.O. So J.O., whoever you are.
Joe.
Thanks for giving us that information. Yeah. So stay in touch and let us know how things are going. And above all, have fun and keep painting models and getting out there and doing great games. All right. Take us out, Ed.
All right. Well, that's it, folks. So y'all be safe and have fun.
All right, Aaron. Take care.
You as well. Thanks, gentlemen. Pleasure as always.
All right. I'm sure we'll have Aaron back next time or some other time in the future. So, all right, guys. Take care.